Did you know that Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda were developed at the exact same time, and basically by the same people? Wild, right? They shared a bunch of the same team members, including Miyamoto, Tezuka, Koji Kondo, the music genius, and several others. Because of this overlap, some ideas actually jumped between the games. These spinning fire bars that absolutely wrecked you in castles? Yeah, those came from Zelda's dungeons first. Miyamoto just decided they'd make perfect obstacles for Mario 2. And honestly, he wasn't wrong, even if they were super annoying. Alright, let me tell you the full story behind the first Super Mario Bros. So picture this. Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka had just wrapped up working on Excitebike and Devil World together. Pretty different games, right? But here's the cool part. They looked at what made those games special and thought, hey, what if we combined the best parts? They grabbed the smooth scrolling mechanics from Excitebike and those big, chunky character sprites from Devil World, and boom, that became the foundation for Super Mario Bros. The whole super part of the name, that actually came from Mario's new powered-up form, which he didn't have in the older arcade game. Makes sense when you think about it. The team's main vision was pretty ambitious for the time. They wanted Mario traveling through completely different themed worlds, with varied terrain like land, water, and sky. Originally, they actually planned for Mario to be twice as big as what we ended up getting. At the very beginning, the playable character wasn't even Mario at all. It was literally just a 16 by 32 pixel square. That's it, a square. And here's the funny part. It couldn't even jump. Tezuka basically said, why don't we just use Mario instead? People already love him from Mario Bros. Miyamoto agreed, and thank goodness for that decision. Then there's Nakago and his team at Systems Research and Development, who did something super unusual. They colored the backgrounds blue in some levels. Doesn't sound revolutionary now, but back then, most games had black backgrounds because developers worried about eye strain and didn't want bright colors distracting players. But these guys went for it anyway, and it totally worked. Here's where things get really interesting. Miyamoto wanted each level to take about a minute to complete. He told the development team this, and they started doing the math. Since it takes roughly a second to cross one screen, they initially thought Miyamoto was asking for 60 screens per stage. Can you imagine? But then Miyamoto clarified that obstacles would naturally slow players down, so they'd only need about 12 screens per level on average. Even the longest stage in the game only has 32 screens, which is still way less than what the team first expected. And you know what's crazy? They didn't have fancy level editing tools back then. Miyamoto and Tezuka literally drew the levels by hand on graph paper. Then, Nakago's team would program everything into the game based on those drawings. If they needed to make changes, they'd just lay a sheet of clear paper over the original drawings and mark up the edits. The team was constantly receiving documents with requested changes, working until 10 at night to implement everything. That's some serious dedication. In some recent interviews promoting the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Miyamoto actually revealed something pretty cool about the story connection between Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. Remember all those pipes in the original Mario Bros. Arcade game? Well, apparently one of them leads directly to the Mushroom Kingdom. That's how Mario gets there in Super Mario Bros. It's a small detail, but I love that there's actual lore connecting the games. Oh, and here's a neat piece of trivia. Toru Iwatani, the guy who created Pac-Man, said Miyamoto personally told him that Super Mario Bros. Was influenced by Pac-Land, which was basically the pioneer of side-scrolling action games. So even legends take inspiration from other legends, you know? There's also this interesting bit about the music. The ending theme you hear in the Famicom Disk System version of the Lost Levels, that was originally composed as the ending for the first Super Mario Bros., but they had to shorten it because of storage limitations. Technology constraints were brutal back then. Super Mario Bros. Absolutely exploded and became one of the greatest games of all time. What made it so revolutionary? The controls. You could precisely control how high Mario jumped, how far he went, and how fast he ran. That might not sound like a big deal now, but back then it was insane. This game basically popularized the entire side-scrolling genre and created a template that tons of games still follow today. Every character, enemy, and item in this game became foundational to the entire Super Mario franchise. Even that classic plot of Bowser kidnapping the princess still being used throughout the series. The sales numbers are absolutely bonkers too. The original release sold over 40 million copies, making it the best-selling platforming Mario game ever, and one of the best-selling video games of all time, period. It spawned TV shows like the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, and of course, most recently, movies. The cultural impact was so massive that in 2010, a street in Zaragoza, Spain, was actually named after the game, complete with a ceremony and everything. How many video games can say that? Okay, so you think you know the Mario story, right? Princess gets kidnapped. Mario saves her. Everyone eats cake. Simple stuff. But let me tell you about the original Super Mario Bros. Storyline from the NES instruction booklet, because it is absolutely wild compared to what we're used to now. Like, seriously, buckle up, because this gets weird. So the story starts with, one day, the kingdom of the peaceful mushroom people was invaded by the Koopa, a tribe of turtles famous for their black magic. Hold on, a tribe of turtles famous for black magic? When's the last time you heard modern Mario games talk about the Koopa tribe and their reputation for dark sorcery? Exactly, never. These days, Bowser just shows up, kidnaps Peach, maybe wants to take over the kingdom or marry her or whatever. But back then, we're talking about an entire turtle civilization known throughout the land for their magical abilities. That's some fantasy novel level world building right there. And here's where it gets absolutely deranged. These magic-wielding turtles didn't just invade and take over. Oh no. They turned the peaceful mushroom people into mere stones, bricks, and even field horsehair plants. Let me repeat that for emphasis. They transformed an entire population of innocent mushroom civilians into rocks, bricks, and plants. Specifically horsehair plants, whatever those are. The whole kingdom fell into ruin because everyone got turned into landscaping and building materials. Think about that for a second. Every time you're smashing bricks in Super Mario Bros., you're potentially destroying someone's grandma. That block you just headbutted for a coin could have been someone's best friend. That's horrifying. You're killing toads. Modern Mario would never go there. Can you imagine the current games being like, yeah, all those blocks you've been breaking, those are people, Mario. You've been shattering innocent citizens with your skull. Absolutely not happening. Now here's another thing that's totally different from what we know today. The instruction booklet tells us that the only one who can undo the magic spell on the mushroom people and return them to their normal selves is the Princess Toadstool, the daughter of the Mushroom King. Wait, the daughter of the Mushroom King? First of all, we never hear about the Mushroom King anymore. He's just gone from the series for the most part. But more importantly, Princess Peach, or Toadstool as she was called back then, isn't just a damsel in distress here. She's literally the only person in the entire kingdom who can reverse the transformation spell. That means Princess Toadstool has unique magical powers that nobody else possesses. She's not just royalty. She's basically the kingdom's last hope and sole magical defense against dark sorcery. In modern games, Peach is often portrayed as sweet and kind. Sometimes she has emotional powers or can float with her dress, but we don't really see her as this singular magical force who's the only thing standing between her people and permanent petrification. The stakes were so much higher and weirder. And of course, because she's the only one who can save everyone, she is presently in the hands of the great Koopa Turtle King. King Koopa himself has captured her, which actually makes tactical sense when you think about it. If you're an evil turtle sorcerer, and there's one person who can undo all of your evil transformation magic, you'd probably want to kidnap that person, right? It's almost logical in a twisted way. Here's my favorite part of the whole instruction booklet, and I'm quoting directly. Mario, the hero of the story, maybe, hears about the mushroom people's plight. Maybe? They literally put maybe in parentheses. The game isn't even sure if Mario is the hero. That's such a hilariously uncertain way to describe your main protagonist. Imagine if modern games did this. Link, the hero of Hyrule, probably. Or Master Chief, the guy who might save humanity, we think. It's so weird and charming at the same time. Anyway, this maybe hero, Mario, sets out on a quest to free the Mushroom Princess from the evil Koopa and restore the fallen kingdom of the Mushroom people. So Mario isn't even from the Mushroom Kingdom, originally based on the wording. He just hears about what's happening and decides to help out. He's like a traveling plumber who got wind of a magical turtle invasion and thought, yeah, I'll handle that. What a guy. The manual then directly addresses you. You are Mario. It's up to you to save the mushroom people from the black magic of the Koopa. They really emphasize that black magic angle. This isn't just a kidnapping or a political takeover. This is straight up dark sorcery and occult turtle magic that you're up against. The tone is so much more serious and fantastical than modern Mario. It's kind of fascinating how much the series has evolved away from these darker, weirder roots. The DNA is still there, with Bowser being the bad guy and the kidnapping plot, but all the stuff about black magic, turtle tribes, and the mass petrification of innocent mushroom civilians, that's been quietly retired to the history books. Honestly, maybe that's for the best, because explaining to kids that they've been destroying cursed civilians every time they break a block might require some therapy sessions down the line. Wild times in the 1980s, my friend. Wild times indeed. Now let's talk about something you've probably heard about, the Minus World. This is one of the most famous glitches in gaming history. Basically, there's this endless underwater level that's identical to World 7-2 that you can access through a programming error. The thing is, you can't actually beat it. You just enter the pipe at the end, and it takes you right back to the beginning. There's no real reason to do this glitch, but people find it fascinating anyway. Most remakes removed it, though the Virtual Console version and Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Kept it in. The Famicom Disk System version is different though. It has a minus world with 3 actual levels you can beat, and finishing it takes you back to the title screen, like you completed the game normally. Want to try it yourself? Head to World 1-2 and stand on top of the pipe that leads to the flag above ground. But don't go in. Break the second and third blocks from the pipe, but leave the far right one intact. Stand on the left edge of the pipe, facing left, and duck. Then jump while ducking, and move right in midair while still facing left. If you nail it, Mario phases through the far right block and the wall into the warp zone. Take the pipe that would normally lead to World 2-1 or 4-1, and congratulations, you're in the Minus World. There's even more weirdness if you mess with the game files. World -2 exists as an underwater version of 3-4, and World -3 is the same level with overworld graphics. Beating World -3 takes you to World -4, which is literally just a blank screen. The rabbit hole goes deep. Here's another glitch that blew people's minds. You can actually jump over the flagpole in some levels. What's beyond it? Nothing. Just an endless, empty path where all you can do is wait for the timer to hit 0. To pull this off in World 1-1, you need to wait for a Koopa Troopa near the second pit. When it's about to fall in, jump at the top of the right level above it. The Koopa gets stuck underneath the level, where you can still see it walking around. Follow it to the end, grabbing a magic mushroom along the way. When the Koopa is halfway between the staircase and the flagpole, do the glitch again, and you'll jump right over that flag. In World 3-3, the method is different. Stand on the last lift at the end until another one has completely risen, then fall off. Accelerate as fast as possible and jump from the far edge of the lift without letting it lower. There's actually a brick right after the fortress or castle's first door that stops you from going too far past it in normal gameplay. The lost levels actually used this glitch intentionally. They hid warp zones beyond the goals in Worlds 3-1 and A-3. Pretty clever, right? The Super Mario All-Stars version fixed this glitch entirely though. Also, beat the main game and you unlock something brutal, hard mode. You can pick which world to start from by pressing a button on the title screen to change the world counter. What makes it harder? Every single little Goomba is replaced with buzzy beetles, and all enemies move faster. Those elevator-style lifts that were originally in their wide forms, now they're these smaller versions that only showed up from World 5-1 onward in the normal game. Mario doesn't get any special powers in hard mode, and you don't get bonus points for defeating enemies. The story stays the same though. 7 castles with mushroom retainers to rescue, and Princess Toadstool in the 8th castle. Finishing hard mode doesn't unlock anything new beyond bragging rights. However, you can rack up points way faster by jumping on a buzzy beetle and running with its shell as it plows through other enemies. Also, early levels that had harder versions later in the normal game now just use the harder version for both. World 1-3, which was easier than 5-3 in the normal game, is now identical to 5-3 in hard mode. Good luck. Now, remember when Nintendo looked at the original Super Mario Bros. And thought, you know what this needs? To be absolutely soul-crushing. Yeah, that's basically how Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels was born. And honestly, the story behind this game is just as wild as the game itself. Yeah, I know most people have already heard about the Doki Doki Panic story, but there are so many bizarre details that most people never even mention, and they change everything. So here's the thing. The development team had such a blast creating new, brutally difficult levels for Versus Super Mario Bros., an arcade version of the first game, that Miyamoto and crew decided, hey, let's make an entire game out of this. And that's exactly what they did. 6 levels from the Lost Levels, specifically 1-4, 2-2, 4-3, 5-4, 6-2, and 6-3, and were actually recycled directly from Versus Super Mario Bros. So they already had a foundation of, this is really hard to build from, and they just kept going with that energy. The game was positioned as one of the flagship titles for the newly released Famicom Disk System in 1986, right alongside The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo's intention was crystal clear. This was supposed to be a game for expert players who had completely mastered the original Super Mario Bros. And were hungry for a new challenge. Not just any challenge though, an absolutely merciless one. And you know what? It worked in Japan. The game became the most popular Famicom Disk System title, selling around 2.5 million copies. People ate it up. But here's the interesting part. Even Japanese critics at the time were calling it an expansion pack or update to the original, rather than a true sequel. They recognized it was basically the same game, but turned up to 11 in terms of difficulty. Now, let's talk about what happened when this game tried to make its way to America, because this is where things get really interesting. Nintendo of America's product analyst, a guy named Howard Phillips, was assigned to test the game. And his reaction? Let me quote him directly, because it's perfect. As I continued to play, I found that Super Mario Bros. 2 asked me again and again to take a leap of faith, and each of those leaps resulted in my immediate death. This was not a fun game to play. It was punishment, undeserved punishment. I put down my controller, astonished that Mr. Miyamoto has chosen to design such a painful game. Can you imagine being so frustrated with a game that you write something that poetic about it? Undeserved punishment. This was Howard having an existential crisis over a platformer. He genuinely couldn't believe Miyamoto had made something this brutal. And the key phrase here is that it was not a fun game to play. Not challenging in a good way, not rewarding, just punishing for the sake of punishment. Based on Howard Phillips' recommendation, Nintendo of America president Minoru Arawaka made a huge decision. They were passing on releasing the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 in the West. They felt it was far too difficult and, honestly, too similar to the original game to sell well in Western markets. Nintendo was worried about the early Mario series becoming associated with frustration and staleness, which would have been a disaster for what was quickly becoming their flagship franchise. So what did they do instead? They commissioned the Japanese headquarters to retool a completely different game called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic into a Super Mario Bros. Sequel. That game, which featured radically different gameplay with character selection, vegetable throwing, and vertical level design, became what we know as Super Mario Bros. 2 in the West. It was only loosely related to the Mario platforming formula, but it was different enough and accessible enough to keep the franchise feeling fresh rather than frustrating. Plot twist: that westernized Super Mario Bros. 2 was later released back in Japan under the title Super Mario USA, completing this bizarre circle of localization. Even after the Lost Levels was initially rejected, there was still some interest in getting it to American players somehow. Marketing head Gail Tilden came up with a clever proposal. What if they produced an NES version of the game and gave it as a bonus to Nintendo Power subscribers? It would be a reward for hardcore fans who probably could handle the difficulty. Nintendo actually went ahead and produced NES cartridges of the Lost Levels for this purpose, but then they abandoned the entire plan due to concerns over brand confusion. Think about it. You'd have two different games, both called Super Mario Bros. 2 floating around, which would have been a marketing nightmare. So those cartridges just sat there, and American players remained Lost Levels free for years. Here's something kinda funny. Like the original Super Mario Bros., the Lost Levels doesn't feature a staff roll or any credits whatsoever. And unlike the original game, very little has been written about its development. So we actually don't know exactly who worked on it. The precise staff composition remains a mystery to this day. However, in a promotional interview for the NES Classic Edition, the game was referred to as Takashi Tezuka's directorial debut, which gives us at least one confirmed key figure. Oh, and the story? It's identical to the first game. Black magic, people turned into bricks, same deal. The only difference is that this adventure is said to take place in a parallel world to the original game, which is a fancy way of saying it's the same story but everything is way harder for some reason. The parallel world explanation is pretty lazy when you think about it, but honestly, nobody was playing the Lost Levels for the narrative depth. Alright, so what actually makes the Lost level so notoriously difficult? Let me break down the new mechanics and features that were specifically designed to make you want to throw your controller. First up, poisonous mushrooms. Yes, you read that right. They introduced mushrooms that hurt you. These things are the ultimate troll move, because your entire instinct from the first game is to grab mushrooms without thinking. Touching a poisonous mushroom is equivalent to getting hit by an enemy, except the mushroom still gets consumed like a normal power-up. They can show up in question mark blocks or invisible blocks, and their color palette matches the Goombas of whatever area you're in. Brown in overworlds, blue in underground sections, gray in castles. So they even color-coordinated your suffering. Then we've got red piranha plants, which are a more aggressive variant of the regular green ones. These absolute jerks will attack you even if you're standing right next to their pipe. The only way to make them stop attacking is to be anywhere above the pipe, and even then, if you're standing on the two outermost edge pixels, they'll still come after you. These first appear in World 4, and completely replace the green piranha plants from that point forward. No more safe, predictable piranha plants for you. But wait, there's more. Certain levels feature strong wind that blows throughout parts of the stage. Usually it blows you forward, which sounds helpful, right? Well, it enables longer jumps, sure, but it also makes it incredibly difficult to space your jumps precisely. You'll constantly overshoot platforms, or get blown right into enemies. It's another layer of chaos to manage on top of everything else trying to kill you. And now, the cherry on top of this suffering sundae. World 9. This is a secret world that unlocks if you beat the game while completing all 32 standard levels without using any warp zones. So first, you have to prove you can handle the entire game the hard way. In the Super Mario All-Stars remake, they were slightly more merciful. You could keep any lives you had left after beating World 8-4, giving you a fighting chance at World 9. but in the Super Mario Bros. Deluxe port, they removed all the secret worlds entirely. Probably for the best, honestly. This is not even the most obtuse thing in the game. There are actually 4 more extra worlds. To access worlds A, B, C, and D in Super Mario Bros., the Lost levels, you needed to beat the game, worlds 1 to 8 times consecutively without using warp zones. Then hold down the A button at the title screen to reveal World A, which unlocks the rest, which is just bonkers. Now, let's talk about the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2. We're talking about a game that started as something completely different, got transformed into a corporate mascot project, and then got transformed again into one of the most unique Mario games ever made. It's wild from start to finish, and honestly, the fact that it all worked out is kind of miraculous. So let's rewind to the beginning. There was this developer at Nintendo named Kensuke Tanabe, who was working on a prototype platform game with a Super Mario style. But here's the thing, his prototype was doing something really different. Instead of just running left to right like traditional Mario, Tanabe's game emphasized vertically scrolling levels and had this core mechanic of throwing blocks around. Pretty cool concept, right? Even cooler, the game was originally intended to be a 2-player co-op experience, where players could literally toss each other around. Imagine picking up your buddy and yeeting them across gaps or up to higher platforms. That sounds amazing, but unfortunately, the technical limitations of the Famicom and NES made it incredibly difficult to produce a polished game with these elements. The hardware just couldn't handle it smoothly, so the team had to adapt. They decided to add more traditional Super Mario-style elements to make the project feasible, including the horizontal levels. Though you'll notice that many vertically oriented levels were kept in the final version, which is why the game feels so different from the original Super Mario Bros. That vertical emphasis was always part of the DNA. Now, here's where things take a turn. Sometime after Tanabe was working on this prototype, the Fuji Television Company came knocking on Nintendo's door with a request. They wanted Nintendo to create a video game using mascots from Yume Kojo, which was basically a Japanese TV event and festival. So, Tanabe took his existing prototype and developed it into Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, featuring these Fuji TV mascots instead of any Nintendo characters. And you know what? The game became one of the best-selling titles for the Family Computer Disk System. It was genuinely successful in Japan, which becomes important later, because Nintendo had already proven the core gameplay was solid and commercially viable. Fast forward to 1987, Nintendo had a real problem on their hands. They needed a Super Mario Bros. 2 to release internationally, but the actual Japanese sequel was deemed too similar and too punishing. So what did they do? They took the finished Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic and swapped out the Fuji TV mascots for Mario, Luigi, Princess Toadstool, and Toad. The core gameplay stayed the same, but now it was a Super Mario game, and that's what got released to the West as Super Mario Bros. 2. Here's what makes this whole situation even more interesting. Super Mario Bros. 2 ended up having a massive influence on the entire Mario franchise going forward, despite its weird origins. So many characters and abilities that we associate with Mario today actually come from this game. Princess Peach's ability to hover in midair? That's from Super Mario Bros. 2, where she could float using her dress. You see this mechanic return in games like Super Smash Bros. Melee and beyond. Her ability to pull vegetables from the ground also originated here. Toad's nimbleness and speed, which you notice in the Mario Kart series where he's always a light, quick character with good acceleration, or his fast running in Mario Sports Mix. That likely stems from his super fast vegetable uprooting speed that was first introduced in this game. And the characters? Oh man. So many iconic Mario enemies debuted in Super Mario Bros. 2. Shy Guys, those masked little dudes from this game. Sniffits, yup. Bombs, the walking bombs that have become absolutely synonymous with Mario, introduced right here. Pokies, those cactus stack enemies, this game. Birdo, the pig dinosaur that shoots eggs, also from Super Mario Bros. 2. Some of these enemies particularly Bob-ombs and Pokies, have made countless appearances in later Super Mario titles and become core parts of the enemy roster. It's actually kind of amazing that a game that wasn't originally designed as a Mario game ended up contributing so much to the franchise's identity. Interestingly, Wart, the main villain of Super Mario Bros. 2, never appeared in another mainline Super Mario game after this. He's the big bad of this one adventure and then just vanishes from the series. Bowser firmly reclaimed his spot as Mario's primary antagonist going forward. There is one fun exception though. Wart appeared as an ally in The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening under his Japanese name, Mamu. So at least he got a cameo in another Nintendo franchise, even if Mario moved on without him. Speaking of the people who made this happen, the game had some serious talent attached. Koji Kondo, who's famous for composing the iconic main Super Mario Bros. Theme, worked on the music. Kensuke Tanabe, the guy who started the whole thing with his prototype, served as director. And of course, you've got Shigeru Miyamoto and Hiroshi Yamauchi as producers, which is basically the Nintendo Dream Team. So honestly, even though the game was not originally intended as a Mario title, the team having the same big names made it spiritually related from the beginning. One of the most distinctive aspects of Super Mario Bros. 2 is the character selection system. You can choose between 4 characters: Mario, Luigi, Toad, or Princess Toadstool, and each one has completely unique gameplay mechanics. They all have different stats, offering various advantages and disadvantages depending on your playstyle and the challenges you're facing. This was revolutionary for a Mario game at the time. You could pick a character based on what you needed. Want speed? Go with Toad. Need that hover ability for tricky jumps? Princess Toadstool's your girl. Prefer balanced, all-around performance? Mario's there for you. Want high jumping ability? Luigi's got you covered with those long legs. The other huge distinction is how you defeat enemies. You can't just stomp on them like in the original Super Mario Bros. Instead, you need to either throw items at enemies or pick up enemies and throw them at each other to defeat them. It's a completely different combat system that requires way more strategic thinking and interaction with the environment. This character ability system was so beloved that when Super Mario 3D World came out decades later, they brought back all 4 playable characters, and they retained their unique abilities from Super Mario Bros. 2. The game's influence continues to echo through the franchise. Now, let's talk about the absolutely bonkers story from the instruction booklet, because it's genuinely one of the weirdest narratives in Mario history, even weirder than the original Mario 1 story. Here's how it goes. One night, Mario has a strange dream. He's climbing this long staircase that leads to a mysterious door, and when he opens it, he sees this incredible world, unlike anything he's ever experienced. A quiet voice speaks to him. "Welcome to Subcon, the land of dreams. Our once beautiful world now suffers at the hands of the evil Wart. Please help us. Only you can free us from his tyranny. Oh, and remember one thing. Wart hates vegetables." Before Mario can even process what's happening, he wakes up in his bed and realizes it was all a dream. Weird dream, but whatever, right? Just your brain doing weird brain things while you sleep. The next day, Mario heads out for a picnic with Luigi, Princess Toadstool, and Toad. While they're walking, he tells them about his bizarre dream, and here's where it gets wild. His friends are shocked because they all had the exact same dream the night before. The same staircase, the same door, the same voice, the same plea for help. All 4 of them experienced identical dreams on the same night. When they arrive at their picnic spot, the group notices a small cave. Curious, they go inside and find a long staircase leading up to a door. Sound familiar? At the top, they open the door and stand there completely shocked. It's Subcon, the world from their shared dream, actually real and right in front of them. Mario quickly discovers that Subcon has indeed been taken over by Wart, and that everything from the dream is true. So now Mario and his friends are on a quest to defeat Wart and restore peace to this dream world that somehow exists in reality. At the end of the game, after you defeat Wart, there's this celebration scene. Mario, Luigi, Toadstool, and Toad are being celebrated by the inhabitants of Subcon, who are carrying Wart across the room in some kind of victory parade. Everything seems resolved and happy. But then Mario wakes up. He's back in his bed, and he's left wondering whether the events were actually real or if it was all just a dream. The game doesn't give you a definitive answer. He just lies there, pondering this question, then continues sleeping, and the game ends. It's such a weird, ambiguous ending. Was Subcon real? Did they actually save a dream world? Or did Mario just have an incredibly vivid, elaborate dream that his friends somehow shared? The game intentionally leaves this unanswered, which is pretty bold for a Mario game. Most Mario adventures end with clear, straightforward resolutions, but Super Mario Bros. 2 said, nah, let's get philosophical about the nature of reality and dreams. Development of Super Mario Bros. 3 kicked off shortly after the Lost levels wrapped up in spring 1986. And get this, originally, the team was planning to make Mario 3 with a bird's eye view, similar to The Legend of Zelda. Can you imagine? You'd be looking down at Mario from above as he ran around. But here's the problem they quickly discovered. Jumping is one of Mario's core moves, right? Well, with an overhead perspective, it became incredibly difficult to tell whether Mario was actually touching the ground or floating in midair. It just didn't work for platforming gameplay, so they switched back to the side view that players were familiar with from earlier titles. Interestingly though, you can still find remnants of that overhead view concept in the final game. That black and white checkerboard pattern you see at the title screen, that's a leftover artifact from when they were experimenting with the top-down perspective. It's like a little fossil of an alternative universe Mario game embedded right there in the title screen. When director Takashi Tezuka started designing concepts for the game, he made a crucial decision. He absolutely did not want this to be like the Lost levels, where basically only the levels and difficulty changed, while everything else stayed the same. Nope. Tezuka wanted to rework everything. He wanted to give Mario an improved moveset with new abilities. He wanted to overhaul all the character sprites to make them look better and more detailed. This was going to be a complete reinvention, not just an expansion pack. The scale of the project was massive compared to previous Mario games. The programmers had what they called a map room, which was this long, narrow meeting room where they'd sit looking at sheet papers and programming map data all day long. Sounds thrilling, right? But this dedication paid off. There were 20 to 30 people working on Super Mario Bros. 3, which is a huge jump from the 7 or 8 people who made the original Super Mario Bros. The ambition was real. Here's something kind of funny though. Despite having this much larger team, Koji Kondo was completely alone on sound design. Just him, by himself, trying to create all the music and audio for this massive game. He said that it was genuinely difficult to come up with music that properly fit the genre and tone they were going for. No pressure or anything, Koji. The good news was that by this point in the NES's lifespan, additional sounds were possible to use during development that weren't available when the original Super Mario Bros. Was being made. Technology had advanced just enough to give Kondo more tools to work with, even if he was still a one-man audio department. The Japanese version was originally scheduled to release in spring 1988. But as development continued, the team kept wanting to add more and more new features. They had so many ideas for power-ups, level mechanics, enemies, and gameplay innovations that they just couldn't fit everything into their original timeline. So the game ended up getting pushed back another 6 months. Now, delaying a game is always risky from a business perspective, but this delay was absolutely worth it. Those extra 6 months of development time allowed the team to polish everything and include all those ambitious features that make Super Mario Bros. 3 so special. And speaking of innovation, here's something wild. The game appeared in the 1989 movie The Wizard as a major marketing tool. This marked the first time ever that a Super Mario game was advertised through a movie. The whole climax of The Wizard revolves around a video game tournament where they're playing Super Mario Bros. 3, giving American audiences their first glimpse of the game before it was even released in the US. It was brilliant marketing, honestly. Kids watched that movie, saw this incredible new Mario game with flying and crazy power-ups and themed worlds, and they absolutely lost their minds waiting for it to come out. The hype was unreal. Now, let's talk about one of the most unique aspects of Super Mario Bros. 3, its visual aesthetic. The game features this really distinctive stage play style presentation. You'll notice that objects are bolted to the background or suspended by ropes. Everything casts these drop shadows that make it look theatrical. At the end of most levels, Mario literally travels off stage onto a black backdrop to complete them, like an actor exiting stage left. This led to a rumor that persisted for years. Was Super Mario Bros. 3 actually meant to be a stage play put on by the Mario cast? Were we watching a theatrical performance the whole time? People debated this for ages, until series creator Shigeru Miyamoto eventually confirmed it was true. The entire game is indeed framed as a stage production, which is such a clever meta concept for a video game. Some of these aesthetic choices were changed or toned down in later remakes of the game, which is kind of a shame, because that stage play vibe is so distinctive and charming. It gave the game a unique personality that set it apart from everything else. Super Mario Bros. 3 received near universal critical acclaim when it launched, and that praise has only grown over time. It's considered one of the best-selling NES games ever, and one of the best-selling Super Mario titles of all time. The game has been re-released on tons of platforms over the years, including full remakes for the SNES compilation, Super Mario All-Stars, and on Game Boy Advance as Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. You can also find it on all of Nintendo's Virtual Console services, and on Nintendo Switch Online. Basically, if you want to play this game, you've got options. Shortly after the game's release, a cartoon adaptation called The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 started airing. The show was produced by DIC Entertainment, working with Nintendo, and it followed King Koopa, or Bowser, and the Koopalings as they attempted to take over both the real world and the Mushroom Kingdom. It was cheesy, as all cartoons from that era were, but it helped keep Mario Mania going strong and introduced the characters to even more people. Alright, let's dive into the actual story from the instruction booklet. The Mushroom Kingdom has been peaceful thanks to Mario and Luigi's heroic deeds in previous adventures. But here's the thing. Here, it's established that the Mushroom Kingdom is actually just an entrance to a much larger area called the Mushroom World. And all is definitely not well in that bigger world. Bowser decided to cause chaos by sending his 7 children out to make mischief however they pleased. These 7 kids, Larry, Morton, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, and Ludwig, who would later become known as the Koopalings, went to different countries throughout the Mushroom World and stole the royal magic wands from each kingdom. Then, using these stolen wands, they transformed all the kings into various helpless animals. Just turned them into creatures that couldn't rule their kingdoms anymore. Pretty brutal for what are essentially bratty turtle kids. So Mario and Luigi have a clear mission. They need to recover all 7 royal magic wands from Bowser's children and return the kings to their true forms. Princess Toadstool and Toad see them off with goodbye and good luck as the brothers set off on their journey deep into the Mushroom World. The way the story unfolds is pretty clever. At the end of each world, Mario and Luigi fight one of the Koopalings in a boss battle. After winning the match, they retrieve the magic wand from that particular Koopaling and use it to turn that world's king back to normal. It gives each world a sense of purpose and closure, which is way more satisfying than just moving from area to area with no narrative payoff. But here's where Bowser pulls a classic villain move, a twist at the end of the game. While the brothers are out adventuring and dealing with his kids, Bowser himself kidnaps Princess Toadstool. He takes her to his lair in Darkland, the game's final area. So not only do Mario and Luigi need to save all these kings, they also need to rescue the princess. Bowser essentially used his own children as a distraction for his real plan, which is kind of cold when you think about it. The brothers eventually make their way to Darkland, fight Bowser in an epic final confrontation, defeat him, save the princess, and restore peace to the Mushroom World once again. Classic Mario story structure, but executed perfectly. Here's one of the biggest innovations that Super Mario Bros. 3 introduced, the world map. Unlike the original Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 2, which just threw you from level to level in a linear sequence, this game gives you an actual map to navigate. This feature became so integral to the series that it's been carried over into pretty much every subsequent Mario game since. The sense of a greater world is what the Mushroom World lore alluded to in the story. According to the Japanese manual, the map designs were deliberately modeled after board games, which explains why moving through them feels so satisfying. And get this, there's a total of 88 levels in Super Mario Bros. 3. That's an absolutely massive amount of content, especially for an NES game. The world map isn't just for show. You actually get to choose which path to take and which levels to play. This non-linear approach was revolutionary at the time, made it feel like a journey. You'll also find toad houses scattered on the map, where you can get items, and spade panels for matching minigames. Midway through each world, you enter a fortress where you fight a mini-boss named Boom Boom. Then at the end of each world, you board the world's airship for a showdown with one of the Koopalings. After defeating them, you restore that kingdom's ruler and move to the next world. The game introduces several new moves that would become Mario staples. You can now pick up objects and kick them at enemies, which adds a whole tactical layer to combat. You can also slide down hills, building momentum for big jumps. These moves carried over into tons of future Super Mario games because they just feel so good to use. But the real stars of Super Mario Bros. 3 are the new power-ups that completely change how you play. The Super Leaf is probably the most iconic. This leaf-shaped power-up transforms the brothers into their raccoon forms, giving them a raccoon tail and ears. With this form, you can build up speed and actually fly into the sky. The feeling of taking off and soaring over entire sections of levels was mind-blowing at the time, and remains incredibly satisfying today. Then there's the hammer suit, which transforms Mario or Luigi into their hammer forms. In this form, you can throw hammers at enemies, just like the Hammer Bros do. Plus, you get enhanced defense. Makes you feel incredibly powerful, which is appropriate given how rare the power-up is. And there are even more varied power-ups. Some of them never came back, which makes Mario 3 feel unique to this day. Looking back, it's hard to overstate how influential Super Mario Bros. 3 has been on the entire franchise. Super Mario Bros. 3 essentially created the template that Nintendo has been iterating on and refining for decades. It took the foundation of the original game and built something so much bigger, bolder, and more imaginative that it redefined what a Mario game could be. It's almost like the first true Mario game, in the way we know them today. All of that effort paid off in creating what many people still consider the greatest 2D Mario game ever made, and one of the best video games, period. What if I told you there's a Mario game where Bowser doesn't exist? The Mushroom Kingdom is nowhere to be found, and you fight an evil hypnotic alien in a spaceship battle? Welcome to Super Mario Land, quite possibly one of the weirdest and most unique entries in the entire franchise. This Game Boy launch title from 1989 is like Mario fell through a dimensional portal into a completely different universe. And honestly, it's fascinating how different this game feels from everything else in the series. Let me take you through this bizarre alternate reality Mario adventure, because once you learn about it, you'll realize just how much of a one-of-a-kind oddity it really is. Right off the bat, Super Mario Land is fundamentally different from every other Mario game that came before it, in one crucial way. It wasn't developed by Shigeru Miyamoto and Nintendo EAD. Instead, Nintendo R&D 1 created the game, with Gunpei Yokoi serving as the guiding producer. This is the first Super Mario platformer to be made by a completely different development team, and you can absolutely feel that difference in every aspect of the game. This was the first Super Mario game released for a handheld console, and the fifth entry in the series overall. In Japan, it's actually recognized as the fourth entry, which gives you some idea of how the series numbering gets a bit wonky depending on which region you're looking at. But regardless of how you count it, Super Mario Land represents a bold experiment. What happens when you give Mario to a different team and let them do their own thing? Here's where things get really interesting. Super Mario Land doesn't take place in the Mushroom Kingdom at all. Instead, the entire game is set in a completely new location called Syrric Land. Syrric is its own distinct world with 4 unique kingdoms, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the familiar Mario setting we all know. The game is divided into 4 kingdoms that serve as the worlds you'll explore. The Birabuto Kingdom, a desert region based on ancient Egypt. The Muda Kingdom, an aquatic area. The Eastern Kingdom, partially inspired by Easter Island. And the Chai Kingdom, drawing from mythical ancient China. Each of these kingdoms has its own completely unique visual identity, cultural theming, and enemy designs. It's not like later Mario games, where you get generic grass world, desert world, water world. These places have specific cultural inspirations that make them feel genuinely distinct and memorable. And Syrric basically never appears again in the main series. After this game, Mario goes right back to the Mushroom Kingdom for pretty much every subsequent adventure. Syrric becomes this weird footnote in Mario history, a place that existed for one Game Boy game and then got left behind. It's such a unique setting that feels so different from typical Mario worlds, and we never really got to explore it again. Instead of rescuing Princess Peach for the millionth time, Super Mario Land introduces Princess Daisy, a completely new character who serves as the damsel in distress. This is Daisy's first appearance in the franchise, and it's wild, because this is also the only time she's ever been the kidnapped princess. After this game, Daisy sticks around in the series, showing up in Mario Kart, Mario Party, sports games, and all sorts of spin-offs. But she never gets kidnapped again. She becomes this energetic, tomboyish character who's Peach's friend and Luigi's sort of girlfriend. But her role as princess who needs saving was literally just this one time. It's such a strange setup. Nintendo created an entirely new princess for this game, gave her a whole kingdom to rule, had her get kidnapped by an alien, and then basically said, okay, that's done. Let's never do that story again. Daisy deserves more main series love, honestly. Speaking of characters who showed up once and mostly disappeared, let's talk about the main villain, Tatanga. Not Bowser, not some Koopa variant, an alien, specifically a malevolent space monster with hypnotic powers who serves as both the main antagonist and the final boss. The instruction booklet tells this genuinely weird story. Once upon a time, there was a peaceful world called Syrric. In this world, there were 4 kingdoms named Birabuto, Muda, Easton, and Chai. One day, the skies of Syrric were suddenly covered by a huge black cloud. From a crack in this cloud, the unknown space monster Tatanga emerged to try to conquer Syrric. An unknown space monster emerging from a crack in a mysterious black cloud. This is like sci-fi horror movie stuff, not typical Mario fare. And what does Tatanga do? He hypnotizes all the people of every kingdom so he can control them however he wants, effectively taking over the entire land. His goal? He wants to marry Princess Daisy and make her his queen. So it's not even a conquer the world plot or a gain ultimate power scheme. The alien traveled across space, hypnotized an entire civilization just because he wanted to marry a princess he presumably just learned about. That's some serious intergalactic stalker energy. Mario hears about what's happening and travels to Syrric to rescue Daisy from Tatanga's clutches and free the hypnotized inhabitants. And just like Syrric and Daisy's kidnapping, Tatanga basically vanishes after this game. He shows up briefly in Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, where it's revealed he's working under Wario and guarding a golden coin. But that's it. The bosses of the game are King Totamasu, who resembles Gao, a sphinx-like enemy, Dragon Zamasu, who looks like Yorarimbu, a seahorse creature, and Hayo Ihoi, similar to Toko Toko, an enemy based on Easter Island heads. They're completely unique to this title, designed specifically to fit the cultural themes of their respective kingdoms. In the 4th and final kingdom, you fight a cloud enemy called Biokinton, and then Mario must board a special airplane called the Sky Pop to battle Tatanga himself in his heavily armed airship called Pegosu. You read that right. There's a shooter segment where Mario flies a plane and battles an alien spaceship. After defeating Tatanga, Mario rescues the real Daisy, and the two ride off together in a spacecraft. The game ends with them traveling through the sky together. Honestly, Peach never got anything this romantic. Here's a fun piece of connecting tissue to the sequel. It's revealed in Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, that Wario actually took advantage of Mario being away in Syrric Land to take over Mario's castle. While Mario was off fighting aliens and rescuing Daisy, Wario pulled a home invasion and claimed Mario's property for himself. That's actually pretty clever villainy when you think about it. Why fight Mario directly when you can just steal his stuff while he's on vacation in another dimension? Super Mario Land features approximately 25 enemies, and most of them appear in only one kingdom. These enemies aren't just palette swaps or slight variations of familiar foes. They're wholly new designs, culturally tied to their native kingdoms, and completely original to the Super Mario series. When the game was localized for English-speaking territories in 1989, most enemies got names that were loose romanizations of their Japanese name. But when the game was released for Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console in 2011, the accompanying e-guide introduced new English names, trying to connect them to more recurring Mario species. Chibibo became Goombas, Nokoban became Bombshell Koopas, and Gira became Bullet Biffs. They were trying to retroactively make these unique enemies feel more connected to the broader Mario universe, which kind of misses the point of how distinct they originally were. With the exception of Piranha Plants, none of these revised names were used in the Mario Portal game archive in 2022, which went back to using the original 1989 names. It's like even Nintendo can't decide how to contextualize these weird one-off enemies. Super Mario Land is also notably the shortest game in the series, comprising only 12 levels spanning those 4 worlds. Compare this to Super Mario Bros. 3 with its 88 levels, and you realize just how compact this adventure is. You can legitimately beat the entire game in under an hour once you know what you're doing. For a mainline Mario game, that's incredibly brief, but it's still memorable. Here's a fun piece of trivia. Super Mario Land was initially set to be the pack-in game for the Game Boy. Imagine if every Game Boy came bundled with Mario instead of what we actually got. But Hank Rogers from Bulletproof Software managed to convince Nintendo of America president Minoru Arakawa that Tetris would have wider appeal for the system's launch. And you know what? He was probably right. Tetris became the Game Boy game, the one everyone associates with the handheld. It showcased the pick-up-and-play nature of portable gaming perfectly. Super Mario Land was still a launch title and sold incredibly well, but Tetris became the cultural phenomenon that defined the platform. Hirokazu Tanaka handled the sound effects and soundtrack for Super Mario Land, and the audio is notably different from Koji Kondo's iconic work on the main series. The music has this distinct, somewhat melancholic quality that fits the Game Boy's limited audio capabilities. The main theme is catchy, but sounds nothing like the classic Mario theme. Even the sound effects are different. For the longest time, Super Mario Land and its sequel were actually excluded from the main Super Mario series in official materials. Nintendo treated them as side games, separate from the real Mario platformers. But eventually, they were included alongside the traditional games in material for the Super Mario Bros. 30th anniversary and 35th anniversary celebrations. They also appear on the history pages of the Mario Portal and the official Home for Mario websites. It's like Nintendo finally acknowledged, yeah, okay, these weird Game Boy games are part of the family too, even if they're the strange cousins nobody talks about. Imagine if Nintendo ported Mario 3 to the brand new SNES, played it, and thought, this just feels like the same game, with prettier graphics. We need to do something completely different. That's exactly how Super Mario World was born, and let me tell you, the result was one of the most influential and beloved games of all time. Let's dive into how this masterpiece came together, and why it still holds up as one of the greatest platformers ever made. Shigeru Miyamoto produced the game, with Koji Kondo handling the music and Shigefumi Hino designing the graphics. This was the first game specifically designed for the SNES, which meant the team had all this new technological power to work with. As I mentioned, they did that experiment where they ported Super Mario Bros. 3 to the new console, and despite the enhanced graphics, it basically felt identical to them. They knew they needed to create something genuinely new that took advantage of what the SNES could do. Here's where things get interesting. Miyamoto has stated that ever since they finished the original Super Mario Bros., the design staff wanted Mario to ride a horse. Can you imagine? Mario galloping around on horseback like some kind of plumber cowboy? The team believed it was technically impossible until the SNES was developed and gave them the processing power they needed. But as they worked with the dinosaur-themed setting they'd chosen for the game, they decided to change the mount from a horse to a dinosaur instead. The evolution of Yoshi's design is fascinating. They first came up with a crocodile, but the team felt it didn't fit Mario's world at all. Something about a crocodile just seemed wrong for the tone and aesthetic they were going for. So they kept tweaking and adjusting the design until it eventually evolved into Yoshi, the lovable green dinosaur we all know today. According to Miyamoto, 16 people were involved in creating the game, and the entire development process took about 3 years. That's a long time for a game back then, but clearly that investment paid off. At one point during development, the game was actually meant to be released in North America and Europe under the full title Super Mario Bros. 4. Makes sense, right? It was the fourth mainline platformer after all, but the name was later shortened to simply Super Mario World, which honestly sounds way better and more distinctive. It gave the game its own identity rather than just being the next numbered sequel. Fun fact, Miyamoto has stated that Super Mario World is his personal favorite game in the entire Super Mario franchise. Coming from the creator himself, that's quite the endorsement. Mario World was one of only 2 launch titles for the Super Famicom, with the other being F-Zero. So if you bought a Super Famicom on day 1 in Japan, you had a choice between a revolutionary racing game and what would become one of the greatest platformers ever made. Not a bad selection for a console launch. Being a sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3, the game retained many elements that debuted in that title, like the world map structure and Koopaling boss fights. But Super Mario World also introduced a massive variety of new gameplay mechanics that expanded on what came before. The world map became less linear and more interconnected, with branching paths and secret exits, creating this web of possibilities. And probably the biggest addition, you could actually save your game. No more having to beat everything in one sitting or leaving your console on overnight to preserve your progress. That was quite an ordeal with the original Mario 3. The story from the instruction booklet sets up the adventure perfectly. After saving the Mushroom Kingdom from Bowser and the Koopas in Super Mario 3, Mario and Luigi are exhausted and need to recuperate. That continuity is pretty rare for Mario games, which usually just reset to a new adventure without much connective tissue. They agree that the best place to vacation would be a magical place called Dinosaur Land. Sounds relaxing, right? But of course, things immediately go wrong. While Mario and Luigi are reclining on the beach, taking a well-deserved nap, Princess Toadstool disappears, apparently seized by evil forces. After searching for hours trying to find their missing friend, Mario and Luigi come across an enormous egg in the forest. Suddenly, the egg hatches, and out pops a young dinosaur named Yoshi. He tells Mario and Luigi this sad tale about how his dinosaur pals were all sealed in similar eggs by a group of monstrous turtles. Luigi immediately exclaims, "Monstrous turtles! Bowser and his bunch have returned!" Mario nods in agreement, and along with Luigi and their new best friend Yoshi, they set off across Dinosaur Land to find the princess and free Yoshi's friends. As they begin their journey, Yoshi hands Mario a beautiful cape, saying, "This may help you." Some say it has magical powers. What a bro. You just meet this dinosaur and he's already giving you magical equipment? That's the kind of friend you want on an adventure. The instruction booklet then addresses you directly. With a little luck and help from a magic cape, our hardy crew can defeat the 7 worlds of Bowser's crazy Koopa critters. Many locations are well hidden, so explore everywhere and try everything. Not all locations have to be explored to rescue the dinosaurs and save Princess Toadstool, but there are many starry treasures to be found in far-reaching places. As Mario and friends travel through Dinosaur Land, they eventually uncover the Valley of Bowser, where the final showdown takes place. Bowser is fought on his castle roof while riding in his Koopa clown car, a floating mechanical device that would become one of his signature vehicles in later games. He's holding Toadstool hostage during the entire fight, raising the stakes considerably. After you defeat Bowser, he gently drops the princess rather than making her fall or putting her in danger. It's an oddly courteous moment for someone who just tried to take over Dinosaur Land and kidnap a princess. He then retreats to plot his inevitable next scheme. Princess Toadstool rewards Mario or Luigi with a kiss as fireworks explode in celebration of their victory, signifying that everyone can finally enjoy that vacation they came for. The reunited team returns to Yoshi's house, where everyone watches as the enchanted eggs hatch into baby dinosaurs, breaking the spell that imprisoned them. The cape feather is such an iconic addition to this game. It gives Mario a yellow cape that lets him spin attack enemies, and more importantly, fly through levels when you build up enough speed. The feeling of soaring through the sky with the cape is absolutely magical and became one of the most memorable power-ups in Mario history. Super Mario World introduces the item stock system, where Mario can hold onto one extra item as a reserve in case he needs it later. You can manually drop your reserve item by pressing the select button, giving you strategic control over when to use your power-ups. If Mario gets damaged and turns back into regular Mario, the reserve item automatically deploys to save you, which is super helpful in tough situations. The map now has a greater general view of the whole land, plus several sub-maps for specific areas, creating this sense that you're exploring an actual interconnected place rather than just selected levels. Unlike Super Mario Bros. 3, where world maps featured mostly numbered panels that felt disconnected from the landscape, levels in Super Mario World are marked by button-like spots laid directly on the environment itself. This creates an organic appearance that makes the world and each level feel genuinely connected. It's such a subtle but effective design choice that makes exploration more immersive. Haunted ghost houses make their debut in Super Mario World and are scattered throughout Dinosaur Land. Unlike traditional linear level layouts, ghost houses tend to contain puzzles and traps, specifically designed to confuse you and make you get lost. They have this spooky, disorienting quality that sets them apart from every other level type. Super Mario World contains 9 worlds, and somewhere between 72 and 76 levels total, depending on how you count things like the back door, front door, top secret area, and Yoshi's house. The exact number gets complicated because 24 of these levels have secret exits in addition to their normal exits, creating multiple paths through many stages. This means there are anywhere from 96 to 100 total exits, depending on your counting method, though the game itself only tracks 96 of them. Star World and the Special Zone are bonus worlds accessed when you find secret exits throughout Dinosaur Land that lead to the Star Roads. These are essentially endgame content for players who want to find everything and face the ultimate challenges. Star World levels require you to find a key and keyhole to reach the secret exit and progress through them, adding an extra layer of exploration. The Special Zone is a linear area that unlocks when you complete all of Star World's secret exits, making it the final reward for dedicated players. The Special Zone levels are significantly more difficult than anything else in the game. None of them contain checkpoints, so you can't save your progress halfway through. Some levels are extremely long, while others use tricky gimmicks that require perfect execution. These are the levels that separate casual players from true Mario masters. While Koji Kondo had created many different melodies for Super Mario Bros. 3, he made an interesting decision for Super Mario World. He decided to use essentially the same melody throughout the game, but in arranged forms. His assumption was that players would recognize the core melody while being exposed to new variations as they progressed, creating familiarity with constant novelty. The melody was apparently inspired by Green Green, a folk song recorded in the 1960s that was incredibly popular in Japan. Since this was the first game developed specifically for the SNES, Kondo felt absolutely overjoyed about the increased technological capabilities The system allowed 8 instruments to be used simultaneously. It was a huge leap forward. To express the technological novelty of the new console, he used samples of several different real instruments and implemented them all, one after another, in the game's title song. It was his way of showing off what the SNES could do. Even decades later, Super Mario World remains not just playable, but genuinely excellent, a testament to how perfectly executed every element of its design truly is. What if I told you that there's this game where Mario's greatest enemy isn't Bowser, but a greedy, garlic-munching doppelganger who literally stole his castle while he was on vacation? Welcome to Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, the game that introduced Wario to the world and completely flipped the Mario formula on its head. This isn't about rescuing a princess or saving a kingdom. This is about Mario fighting to reclaim what's rightfully his from a jealous rival who's been plotting against him since childhood. Let me walk you through how this surprisingly ambitious Game Boy sequel came to be and why it remains one of the most unique entries in the entire franchise. Development for Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, kicked off in November 1991 and took 10 months to complete. In a 1992 interview, the game's director and designer, Hiroji Kiyotaka, talked about how the team originally wanted to move away from the conventional ideas established by previous Super Mario games. Pursuing this ambitious concept, they dove into work and created their first draft, and it got turned down. The higher-ups had disagreements about whether the product properly represented Mario's character and the world he's known for. The team realized they'd gone too far off the rails and needed to pull back, so they reworked everything to create something a little closer to the existing Mario world. But here's the thing, even while course-correcting, the team still wanted to give Mario a completely new objective. They were tired of the same fight to rescue the princess plot that had been the driving force of most Super Mario games up to that point. The staff wanted a change of pace, something fresh that would shake up the formula. So they decided that Mario should fight to win back something that belongs to him, rather than fighting for someone else's benefit. It's a subtle but significant shift that makes the story feel more personal and immediately engaging. It was Kiyotake's brilliant idea to introduce Wario as a new character. He discussed the concept with assistant character designer Takehiko Hosokawa before presenting it to the rest of the development team. And here's something funny. Before they even developed Wario's actual character, personality, or appearance, his name was the first thing they decided on. The name is the play on the Japanese word Waroi, which means bad. Perfect for a villain, right? The idea to put an upside-down M on his cap to represent a W received immediate, enthusiastic support from the rest of the staff. Everyone loved it instantly. It's such a simple but effective visual that immediately communicates this is the anti-Wario. Wario's entire character was based on the concept that every great protagonist needs an arch-rival and nemesis, someone who represents everything they're not. Kiyotake compared Mario and Wario's relationship to the dynamic between comic book characters Popeye and Bluto. Bluto is larger, stronger, and more cunning than Popeye, and he's normally motivated by pure selfish interest rather than heroism. That's exactly the energy Wario embodies. He's not trying to conquer the world or gain ultimate power like Bowser. He just wants what Mario has because he's jealous, which makes him feel more personal and petty as an antagonist. After the wider staff agreed on the idea of Wario, Kiyotake discussed the details of in-game sprite animation and movement with programmer Takahiro Harada to bring him to life. Wario wasn't the only character Kiyotake proposed, though. He came up with many other character ideas that were either outright rejected or didn't gain approval from the team. So Wario was the one that stuck and resonated with everyone. Kiyotake was absolutely obsessed with the untouchable bee-fly enemies that appear in the Tree Zone and Macro Zone. These little jerks actually made him burst out laughing when he first interacted with them after they were programmed. He was so amused by them that he was eager to ensure that bee-fly remained in the final game. Why? Because he found it hilarious how much they would likely annoy players. That's some delightfully sadistic game design right there. creating an enemy specifically because you know it'll frustrate people is peak developer trolling. While developing the controls, programmer Harada was really thoughtful about the Game Boy's limitations. He considered that players might find it difficult to hold down 2 buttons on the D-pad simultaneously to move in a diagonal direction. This was especially important for mechanics that require precise control. Harada kept this ergonomic concern in mind while programming how Mario's bunny ears power up and Spacesuit performed high jumps, making sure the controls felt natural rather than awkward on the handheld's button layout. Kazumi Totaka composed the music for Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, and he had some really interesting thoughts about the audio design. He acknowledged that the sound effect played when transforming into Super Mario was originally identical to the one used in Super Mario World, and it stayed that way until about midway through development. But then Tatanga had a realization. He was afraid players would get the impression they were playing a game that overlapped too much with Super Mario World. He worried they'd become negatively conscious, that they were playing on a tiny Game Boy screen compared to the television screen used by the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Nobody wants to feel like they're getting an inferior version of something they've already played, you know? So Tatanga made a deliberate choice to use many different sound effects rather than just copying Super Mario World's audio. It helped establish Super Mario Land 2 as its own distinct experience rather than feeling like a downgraded port. Besides composing, Tatanga also had a partial role in the development discussions between Kiyotake, Harada, and Hosokawa. He was able to provide comments and feedback while proposed ideas were being evaluated. And he could even come up with suggestions of his own, though he admits most of his suggestions ended up getting rejected. Can't win them all. According to Harada, the most challenging stage of development wasn't creating the levels or programming the mechanics. It was adjusting and fine-tuning the test version after presenting it to playtesters. Here's the problem. Harada and his team had been playing and testing the game constantly since the very beginning of development. They knew every trick, every enemy pattern, every platform placement intimately, so they initially believed the test version was way too easy. But when they brought in fresh playtesters, those players generally found the game very difficult. It's a classic case of developers being too close to their own work to accurately judge its difficulty. Harada stated that they spent about 2 to 3 months making small changes to the stages based on the feedback they received from playtesters. That's a significant chunk of time dedicated purely to balancing the difficulty and making sure the game felt fair rather than frustrating. Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, launched for the Game Boy in 1992. Most recently, it became one of the launch titles for the Nintendo Switch Online's Game Boy catalog, making it easily accessible to modern players. Like the first Super Mario Land, this game was initially excluded from the main Super Mario series by Nintendo in official materials, but it was eventually included alongside the traditional games for the 30th anniversary of Super Mario Bros., and now appears on the history pages of the Mario Portal and the official home for Mario websites. It's finally getting the recognition it deserves. The instruction booklet for the game opens with an urgent message in all caps, "Danger, danger," followed by Mario himself explaining the situation. While I was away crusading against the mystery alien Tatanga in Sarasaland, an evil creep took over my castle and put the people of Mario Land under his control with a magic spell. The intruder goes by the name of Wario. He has been jealous of my popularity ever since we were boys, and has tried to steal my castle many times. It seems he has succeeded this time. This is huge. We're learning that Wario and Mario have history going all the way back to when they were children. Wario has apparently been jealous of Mario's popularity their entire lives, and has made multiple attempts to steal Mario's castle over the years. This wasn't just a random attack of opportunity. This was a carefully planned scheme by someone with a lifelong grudge. Mario continues, "Wario has scattered the 6 golden coins from my castle all over Mario Land. These golden coins are guarded by those under Wario's spell. Without these coins, we can't get into the castle to deal with Wario. We must collect the 6 coins, attack Wario in the castle, and save everybody. It's time to set out on our mission. Mario's exhausted from his last adventure, comes home expecting to relax, and finds his entire life has been stolen. The 6 golden coins, which are the literal keys to Mario's castle, have been scattered throughout the island. Mario must retrieve all 6 coins so he can confront Wario and reclaim what's rightfully his, restoring order to Mario Land in the process. It's such a personal, focused story, compared to the typical save the world or rescue the princess plots. The game begins with a simple tutorial level called Gate Course, designed to help you learn the controls. Interestingly, this level cannot be replayed once you complete it. It's a one-time introduction to the mechanics before you're set loose on the main adventure. After completing the tutorial, you must travel through 6 different zones, each containing a series of levels. Every zone has its own unique theme and boss guardian. The tree zone takes place inside a massive tree that's been infested with giant insects. It's got this creepy, oversized bug aesthetic that makes everything feel dangerous and alien. The zone is guarded by a boss called the Big Bird, which is exactly what it sounds like. The turtle zone is located inside a giant tortoise, creating an aquatic environment filled with underwater challenges. The guardian here is an octopus that's located inside a whale. It's like layers of sea creatures all the way down. The water physics and swimming mechanics get a real workout in this zone. The macro zone is one of the most creative concepts in any Mario game. It's a house-like zone that shrinks anyone who enters it. Suddenly, normal household objects become enormous obstacles. You're navigating around massive furniture and avoiding what would normally be tiny hazards. The Guardian is a sewer rat, which makes perfect sense given the shrunken perspective. When you're that small, a rat becomes an absolutely terrifying monster. The Pumpkin Zone is located inside a giant jack-o'-lantern and features graveyards and haunted houses throughout. It's got this spooky Halloween atmosphere that's surprisingly dark for a Mario game. The Guardian is a witch, leaning into the horror theme perfectly. The Mario Zone is absolutely wild. It's a mechanical version of Mario himself. You're essentially exploring the inside of a giant Mario robot. The zone is guarded by the 3 little pigs, which is such a random fairy tale reference, but somehow works in the context of this bizarre game. The Space Zone encompasses the moon and stars, taking you into outer space for cosmic platforming challenges. The Guardian is Tatanga, the alien antagonist from the original Super Mario Land. His appearance here connects the 2 games and suggests he's now working for Wario, turning the previous game's main villain into a subordinate boss. In addition to the tutorial and the 6 main zones, there's another level that doesn't belong to any specific zone or area. It sits off the path between the tree zone and the macro zone. Playing this level doesn't unlock anything special or contribute to your progression, though it does count as one of the exits tracked by the game. After collecting all 6 golden coins through your adventures across Mario Land, you can finally venture into Mario's castle, which has been transformed into a dangerous, hostile version of its former self under Wario's control. Fight your way through this corrupted castle until you reach the throne room, where you finally confront Wario face to face. What makes it really interesting is that in the 2nd and 3rd stages, Wario actually uses power-ups to fight back. He grabs the carrot power-up, which gives bunny ears for higher jumping, and the fire flower, gaining abilities identical to Mario's own. He's literally using Mario's own tricks against him, which is such a perfect character moment for this jealous rival. After you clear the 3rd stage by stomping Wario enough times, something hilarious happens. Wario shrinks down and begins crying in defeat, but then, in a moment of petty anger, he throws one of his shoes at Mario before escaping the castle. Mario follows him out, and with Wario gone, the castle returns to its normal, non-evil state. Peace is finally restored to Mario Land, and Mario gets his home back. Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, stands out in the franchise for so many reasons. The personal nature of the story makes it feel more emotionally engaging than most Mario games. The 6 zones are wildly creative and diverse, each with its own distinct identity and visual style. And of course, Wario's introduction changed the Mario universe forever. He became such a popular and enduring character that he eventually got his own series of games, starting with Wario Land. The fact that this game came out on the Game Boy and managed to feel so ambitious and fully realized is impressive. That creative ambition, combined with the 10 months of careful development and those extra months of difficulty balancing, resulted in a Game Boy classic that still holds up today. Did you know the most colorful, creative, and artistically bold Mario game ever made almost got rejected because it didn't look punchy enough compared to Donkey Kong Country? That's the wild origin story of Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, a game that turned rejection into revolution and created one of the most visually distinctive platformers of all time. This is a complete reimagining of the franchise that puts you in control of Yoshi, carrying baby Mario through hand-drawn wonderland, filled with creativity and innovation at every turn. Let's explain how this masterpiece almost never happened. In an interview with game journalist Stephen Kent, Shigeru Miyamoto revealed something fascinating. He'd wanted to make a game starring Yoshi as far back as Super Mario World's development. That's years of Yoshi sitting in the back of his mind as a character worthy of his own starring role. But what really motivated him to finally make it happen was his dissatisfaction with previous Yoshi games. Miyamoto specifically mentioned disliking Yoshi's Cookie, Yoshi's Egg, and Yoshi's Safari. He felt none of these games were authentic to who Yoshi really was as a character. They were just slapping Yoshi's face on puzzle games and light gun shooters without capturing his personality or potential. Miyamoto wanted to create something that truly represented what made Yoshi special, and that drive became the foundation for Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Here's where the story gets really interesting. An early version of the game was demoed to Nintendo's marketing department, and they flat out rejected it. Their reasoning? The visuals were lacking punch compared to Donkey Kong Country's pre-rendered 3D graphics. At the time, Donkey Kong Country had blown everyone's minds with its cutting-edge visuals that looked almost three-dimensional on the SNES. The marketing folks wanted the same technological wow factor. But Miyamoto didn't just give up or try to copy what Rare had done with Donkey Kong Country. Instead, he went in the complete opposite direction. He developed a more stylized and cartoony art direction for the game that embraced hand-drawn aesthetics rather than trying to look realistic or technologically impressive. The new artistic vision was accepted, and honestly, it was the best decision possible because it made Yoshi's Island timeless in a way that pre-rendered graphics never could be. Fun fact, some of these pre-rendered sprites from the original graphical pitch still exist in the final game. You can see them in the opening sequence, little remnants of what the game almost looked like before Miyamoto pivoted to the iconic crayon and colored pencil aesthetic we know and love. According to Hisashi Nagami, the hand-drawn style wasn't just a visual filter or some clever programming trick. The development team literally drew the characters by hand on actual paper, then scanned those drawings into computers and painstakingly copied them to create these sprites pixel at a time. Can you imagine the dedication that required? Every single sprite in the game was essentially handcrafted through this laborious process, which is why everything has such a distinctive, organic quality that digital art couldn't replicate at the time. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, was one of only 3 completed games to use the Super FX2 graphics chip, a special piece of hardware built into the cartridge itself that gave the SNES extra processing power. This chip allowed for larger sprites, more detailed character models, and advanced effects like sprite scaling and rotation, which Nintendo marketed as Morphmation technology. Sounds very space-age and futuristic, doesn't it? The chip also enabled basic polygonal rendering and advanced parallax scrolling, creating depth and movement in the backgrounds that standard SNES games couldn't achieve. These technical capabilities, combined with the hand-drawn art style, created something truly unique. A game that looked like a children's storybook come to life with fluid, dynamic movement. Despite being labeled as Super Mario World 2, suggesting it's a sequel. The game is actually a prequel to Super Mario World. The entire story takes place during Mario and Luigi's infancy. You play as Yoshi and the rest of the Yoshi clan as they carry baby Mario across Yoshi's Island on a mission to rescue baby Luigi from baby Bowser and his Magic Koopa minion/caretaker, Kamek. Instead of relying on the traditional jumping and power-up combat system that defined Super Mario platformers, Yoshis use their tongues to eat enemies and their eggs as projectiles to overcome obstacles. The game introduces tons of different mechanics that make it feel completely distinct from any Mario game before it. One of the most notable differences is the time-based health system rather than hit points. This is genuinely unusual for platform games. Yoshi's Island completely reimagined how health could work in a platformer, creating tension through countdown timers to grab the crying baby Mario back, rather than traditional damage systems. Although Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, wasn't as financially successful as its predecessor, the game received highly positive critical reception. Its unique style spawned an entirely new series of platform games within the Yoshi franchise, though technically Yoshi's Island is the fourth Yoshi entry overall, when you count those earlier games Miyamoto didn't like. The game proved that Yoshi could absolutely carry his own series, and didn't need to just be Mario's sidekick. It established the template for Yoshi games going forward, with the egg-throwing mechanics, the arts and crafts aesthetic, and the focus on creative level design rather than difficult platforming challenges. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, was directed by video game designers Takashi Tezuka, Shigefumi Hino, and Hideki Kono, plus programmer Toshihiko Nakago. All four had worked on previous titles in the Super Mario series, with everyone except Hino serving as directors for the original Super Mario World. So you had this experienced team who knew exactly what made Mario games work, which gave them the confidence to experiment and try something completely different. Kono had earlier worked as a map and level designer in previous Super Mario games, and served as map director for Super Mario World. So he understood the flow and structure of great level design intimately. This was also the first Super Mario-related project to involve Yasuhisa Yamamura, who would go on to work notably on the dungeon design in the Legend of Zelda series. The crossover of talent between Nintendo's biggest franchises helped bring fresh perspectives to the project. The CG design the game employs is credited to Yoshiaki Koizumi, who previously worked on Super Mario Kart as the illustrator. And of course, the soundtrack was composed by Koji Kondo. Shigeru Miyamoto had heavy involvement with the game's development and served as producer, while Nintendo's then president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, was the executive producer. That's some serious high-level support for the project. According to Miyamoto, the marketing department at Nintendo really wanted him to use pre-rendered 3D sprites like Donkey Kong Country throughout the entire game, not just in the opening. They were convinced that's what players expected and wanted after seeing what Rare had accomplished. But Miyamoto stuck to his guns with the stylized 2D sprites, and his artistic vision ultimately proved correct. The game went through some interesting title changes during development. It was originally intended to feature the prefix Super Mario Bros. 5, which would have positioned it as the fifth mainline Mario game. This was shortened to just Super Mario World in the final Japanese release. The international edition carried over a similar concept, but used the prefix Super Mario World 2 instead, creating a connection to the original Super Mario World, which had been subtitled Super Mario Bros. 4 on its Japanese release. Because of this naming confusion, the game has sometimes been nicknamed Super Mario Bros. 5 Yoshi's Island, or just Super Mario Bros. 5 for short. It's one of those cases where the numbering got a bit messy. It's interesting that Yoshi's Island is, at the same time, the first true game in the Yoshi series, but also a main game in the Mario series, with all the developers and almost the Mario 5 name. Fascinating how the franchises intersect like that. The story of the game starts with a stork carrying the newborn Mario twins to deliver them to their parents. But on the way there, the stork gets ambushed by Kamek, the Magic Koopa who serves as both Bowser's minion and caretaker. Kamek successfully captures baby Luigi and the stork, imprisoning them at Bowser's castle. But baby Mario plummets into the sea during the attack. Fortunately, he lands safely on a Yoshi's back on Yoshi's Island, so at least he's okay. The Yoshis discover that baby Mario has a map with him showing the location of Bowser's castle, which gives them a clear destination for their rescue mission. Meanwhile, Kamek realizes he missed capturing baby Mario and dispatches his toadies to kidnap the baby. While the Yoshis are discussing what to do, baby Mario starts pointing in a specific direction because of a powerful twin link he shares with baby Luigi. This psychic connection between the brothers lets baby Mario sense where his twin is being held. The Yoshis then employ a relay system to transport baby Mario across the island, passing him between different colored Yoshis as they progress through various areas. After overcoming tons of obstacles and fighting bosses that Kamek has magically enlarged in various forts and castles throughout the island, the Yoshis finally manage to defeat both Kamek and baby Bowser. They rescue baby Luigi and the stork, allowing the stork to safely complete his delivery and bring the babies to their parents. It's a heartwarming ending where you've essentially protected infant Mario and Luigi so they can grow up to become the heroes we know from other games. The setting takes place on Yoshi's Island, which was the first world of Super Mario World, but the island portrayed in Super Mario World 2 is much larger in scale and comes with way more variety in biomes and characters. As you progress through the game, you encounter environments and creatures that make the island feel like a living, diverse ecosystem, rather than just a series of disconnected levels. All worlds have particular themed biomes that give them distinct identities. World 1 features grasslands with a gentle, welcoming atmosphere, perfect for learning the game's mechanics. As you progress, the themes get more extreme, with World 6 having a stronger emphasis on caverns and lava as you approach King Bowser's castle. This theming has been carried forward in further entries of the Yoshi's Island series, becoming a defining characteristic of the franchise. The backdrops are dynamically rendered with a more complex color palette than what standard SNES games could manage. You'll see backgrounds that shift and morph, clouds that look like cotton balls, and terrain that appears to be made from construction paper and cardboard. It's visually stunning in a way that no other game of its era could match. In addition to the typical run and jump controls you'd expect from a platformer, Yoshis can catch enemies and manipulate objects using their long tongues. It's the signature Yoshi ability that sets him apart from Mario. After catching an enemy, you can either spit them out as a projectile or swallow them whole. If you keep an enemy in Yoshi's mouth long enough without making a decision, he eventually swallows it automatically, though some enemies can only be held and spit out rather than eaten. Swallowing most enemies allows Yoshi to lay a Yoshi egg, and he can carry up to 6 eggs at once. They trail behind Yoshi in a line, and if you eat another enemy when you're already carrying 6 eggs, the egg at the front of the line gets discarded to make room for the new one. While Yoshi has eggs in his inventory, you can aim using a constantly moving target reticle and throw them at enemies to damage them. Activate objects like switches and blocks. Ricochet them off solid surfaces to hit targets around corners, and even skim them across water surfaces. The egg-throwing mechanics add a puzzle element to the game, where you're constantly thinking about angles and trajectories, rather than just jumping on things. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island received critical acclaim upon release. Most reviews praised the level design, the platforming mechanics, the personality and charm of the characters, the gorgeous graphics, the memorable soundtrack, and the sheer creativity packed into every aspect of the game. The most common criticism surrounding the game comes from Baby Mario's crying when he gets separated from Yoshi and trapped in a bubble. That high-pitched wailing as the countdown timer ticks down is often cited as annoying by players and reviewers. And honestly, yeah, it's pretty grating when you hear it repeatedly. But that annoyance is kind of intentional design, creating urgency and panic that motivates you to quickly retrieve Baby Mario before time runs out. Nintendo Life referred to the game as perhaps the greatest platformer of all time in their review, giving it a perfect 10 out of 10 score. That's high praise, but honestly, it's not hyperbolic. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island represents a peak of creative confidence in game development. Nintendo could have played it safe and made Super Mario World, but more of it. Instead, they created something completely different that stood in stark contrast to everything else on the market. While other developers were chasing realistic graphics and technical showmanship, Yoshi's Island embraced whimsy, artistry, and pure imagination. The rejection from the marketing department could have killed the project, or forced it into a more conventional direction. But Miyamoto's artistic vision and the development team's dedication to creating something authentic to Yoshi's character resulted in a timeless masterpiece that still looks gorgeous and plays beautifully decades later. After over 10 years without a new 2D Mario platformer, Nintendo looked at the DS and thought, you know what this needs? Mario jumping on Goombas again. But now, he is bigger. And that's exactly what we got with New Super Mario Bros., a game that single-handedly revived the 2D platforming genre after the craze of the arrival of 3D graphics, and proved that sometimes going back to basics with modern polish is exactly what players want. This was a carefully crafted evolution of classic Mario gameplay, using brand new technology to create something that felt both familiar and fresh. Let me walk you through how Nintendo brought 2D Mario back from a 14-year hiatus, if you don't count Yoshi's Island, and made it the best-selling DS game of all time. Nintendo announced on January 21st, 2006, that New Super Mario Bros. Would launch for the Nintendo DS on May 7th, 2006. At the same time, they introduced the game's new power-ups, including the blue Koopa shell and the absolutely ridiculous Mega Mushroom. They also mentioned something crucial. The game would be played in 2D, but use 3D models to create a 2.5D look and feel. This was the key to making old-school gameplay feel modern and visually impressive on the DS hardware. The May 7th release date got delayed to May 21st, but then the game's launch was only pushed back slightly to May 15th of that year instead. Nintendo strategically planned to release the game around the same time the Nintendo DS Lite launched on June 11th, 2006, which was smart marketing, having a major Mario game available right when the sleeker, more attractive DS Lite hit shelves helped drive sales for both products. New Super Mario Bros. Is the first original 2D platform game with Mario as the main character since Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, way back in 1992. Think about that gap for a second. 14 years. An entire generation of gamers had grown up without experiencing a brand new 2D Mario adventure. Sure, there were ports, but nothing genuinely new in the classic side-scrolling format that made Mario famous. The game was available for play at E3 in 2005, giving journalists and lucky attendees their first hands-on experience with 2D Mario's grand return. The buzz coming out of that showing was incredibly positive, building anticipation for the full release. The game's designers were given much more freedom with designs compared to previous 2D Mario games, and you can really see it in the final product. Characters, enemies, and objects could now be created with way more detailed animations, without requiring that they be painstakingly designed by hand, pixel by pixel like in the old days. This technological leap meant smoother movement, more expressive characters, and the ability to experiment with ideas that would have been too labor-intensive in the sprite-based era. To provide visual cues and keep players focused on the action, the developers made the game's camera much more dynamic than it had been in classic 2D Mario games. The camera zooms in and out, depending on the situation, providing focus where necessary. When you're in a tight platforming section, it might zoom in closer so you can see the details. When you're in a more open area or facing a boss, it pulls back to give you the full picture. It's a subtle but effective way to guide the player's attention. Physics play an important role in New Super Mario Bros. Improved game mechanics, and this is where the move away from rigid sprite-based design really pays off. without the restrictions of tile-based sprites and backgrounds that older games had to work within. The designers were free to explore entirely new gameplay mechanics that wouldn't have been possible before. Mario can now swing on ropes and walk on wires that actually bend and stretch under his weight. They respond dynamically to Mario's position and movement, creating physics-based puzzles and platforming challenges that feel more organic and intuitive. Early in development, the team planned not to use voice acting for the game. To stay true to the spirit of the original Super Mario Bros., they wanted that pure, classic feel where Mario was defined by his actions rather than his voice. However, voice acting was eventually embraced by the developers, who decided it would positively serve the game and make it feel more alive and engaging. Although voice acting had been used in earlier 2D Mario re-releases for the Game Boy Advance, New Super Mario Bros. Is the first original 2D Mario game to feature voice acting. Charles Martinet returned to voice both Mario and Luigi, bringing his iconic energy to the DS speakers. It ended up being the right call, because his enthusiastic vocal performance adds so much personality without being intrusive or taking away from the gameplay. New Super Mario Bros. Features original music composed by Asuka Oda and Hajime Wakai under the direction of Koji Kondo, the legendary composer who created the Super Mario series' most iconic tunes. But here's a clever detail. In the new Super Mario Bros. Series, enemies slightly jump and dance in time to the music, creating this rhythm-based element to the world. It's not something game-changing, but it helps make the game more lived-in. New Super Mario has a unique visual approach. While the game is seen in 2D from the player's perspective, most of the characters and objects are actually 3D polygonal renderings placed on 2D backgrounds. This creates a 2.5D effect. The result is a game that looks modern and impressive while playing exactly how you remember classic Mario games playing. Moves from 3D Mario games appear for the first time in 2D Mario games in New Super Mario Bros., which is super exciting if you've been playing the 3D titles. The ground pound, triple jump, and wall jump all make their 2D debut here, adding verticality and momentum-based movement options that weren't possible in the classic games. The wall jump is particularly game-changing for level design. Mario has to slide down a wall for a small amount of time before being able to execute it, which differs slightly from how it works in the 3D games. This technique lets Mario or Luigi reach new areas by bouncing back and forth between walls or vertical objects, and it's incredibly useful for escaping from a fall down a pit at the last second. The ground pound lets Mario slam down from the air by pressing down on the D-pad while airborne, allowing him to crush blocks beneath him, defeat enemies, and activate certain switches. The triple jump gives you extra height if you chain 3 jumps together with proper timing, which skilled players can use to sequence break or reach secrets. The multiplayer mode in New Super Mario Bros. Pits 2 players against each other as Mario and Luigi in one of 5 stages. The goal is to be the first to collect a preset number of stars, but you're not just racing independently. You can actively attack each other in an attempt to steal your opponent's stars. Jumping on your opponent's character makes them lose 1 star, but if you pull off a ground pound on their head, they lose 3 stars at once. It creates this chaotic, competitive energy where you're constantly balancing star collection with sabotaging your rival. It's basically Mario Kart levels of friendship destroying gameplay. In addition to the competitive versus mode, some mini-games that were previously available in Super Mario 64 DS return. The mini-games are divided into 4 categories: action, puzzle, table, and variety. These provide a nice break from the main platforming action and add tons of extra content to mess around with. 3 major power-ups are introduced in New Super Mario Bros., and they range from practical to absolutely bonkers. The blue Koopa shell lets Mario withdraw into a shell to protect himself, and perform a shell dash attack, where he slides along the ground like a Koopa, defeating enemies in his path. He also swims significantly faster when in this form, which is great for water levels that would otherwise feel slow and tedious. The Mega Mushroom is the most ridiculous power-up in Mario history. It grows Mario to an incredible size, where he's literally bigger than the screen, and he can destroy absolutely everything in his path. Buildings crumble, pipes get crushed, enemies get squashed without you even trying. It's hilariously overpowered. It makes you feel like Godzilla rampaging through a city. The Mega Mushroom is clearly inspired by the similar mushroom that appeared in Super Mario 64 DS, but implemented here with way more destructive spectacle. The Mini Mushroom does the opposite, causing Mario to shrink to about half of Small Mario's size. This allows him to enter tiny passageways that would otherwise be inaccessible. Mini Mario is so light that he can literally run on the surface of water without sinking and jump extremely high relative to his size. It completely changes how you navigate levels and opens up secret areas that regular-sized Mario couldn't reach. The game features a secret challenge mode that old-school players will immediately recognize. In this mode, you cannot scroll the camera to the left or downward, exactly like in the original Super Mario Bros., where you were locked into constant forward progression. It's only available after you've completed the game once, rewarding dedicated players with an extra difficulty modifier. To unlock it, you need to go to the map screen of any world, pause the game, and input a specific button combination. Press L, R, X, Y, Y in sequence. It's a fun way to add challenge and nostalgia for players who found the main game too easy. It's also possible to play as Luigi in single-player mode, and there's a fun secret to unlock him. You need to hold down L, R, and A simultaneously when selecting a file. There are no gameplay differences between the brothers in this game, unlike some Mario titles where Luigi jumps higher or runs differently. The shortest possible path Mario can take to beat the game has been calculated by the speedrunning community. You can complete the entire game by playing World 1-1, World 1-2, World 1 Tower, then skipping directly to World 5-1, World 5-2, World 5-3, World 5-Ghost House, and finally playing through all of World 8 to reach Bowser. Using the game's warp system and secret exits, you can skip huge chunks of content, which is perfect for speedruns or subsequent playthroughs after you've already experienced everything. Some interesting details exist from earlier versions of the game that didn't make it to the final release. In demo versions used in kiosks during 2005 and in the E3 2005 trailer, Mega Goombas were a generic enemy species rather than an individual boss like they became in the final game. Spindrift, the spinning enemy from Super Mario 64, was also supposed to be in the game, but got replaced by the blue spinning platforms you see in World 1-3 and other levels. You can kind of see the conceptual connection there, with both involving spinning circular platforms, but the mechanical version fit the 2D gameplay better than an actual enemy character would have. New Super Mario Bros. Released with critical and commercial success that exceeded even Nintendo's expectations. Many critics and industry observers considered it the main contributor to the revival of the 2D platforming genre, which had been declared dead by many gaming pundits who thought 3D was the only future for games. The sales numbers speak for themselves. It sold over 30 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling game for the Nintendo DS and one of the best-selling video games of all time. Those are absolutely staggering numbers that proved there was still massive demand for 2D Mario adventures. The game's success spawned many sequels, of course. Now, let me tell you something very cool. Shigeru Miyamoto had been trying to crack multiplayer Mario for ages before this game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, finally happened. Like, we're talking years of attempts. If you look at old development stuff from games like Super Mario 64 DS and the original New Super Mario Bros., you can actually see evidence that multiplayer was on the table during early development. Those features never made it into the final versions though, partly because the technology just wasn't there yet. Every time Miyamoto started a new Mario project, he'd experiment with multiplayer ideas, but when things didn't work out, the teams would fall back on what they knew best: single-player experiences. The multiplayer stuff would get pushed aside and only show up in separate minigames or side modes that didn't really connect to the main adventure. The Wii changed everything. Finally, the hardware was powerful enough to handle all the items and enemies on screen at once, while keeping the camera focused on multiple characters. This was the breakthrough Miyamoto had been waiting for. Speaking of characters, did you know Peach, Wario, and Waluigi almost made the cut as playable? Miyamoto mentioned in a 2009 Famitsu interview that they considered all three, but ultimately decided against it. The reason? They didn't want to give each character unique abilities because it would make balancing everything way too complicated. There's this great 2010 Nintendo Power interview with director Shigeyuki Asuke, where he spills the beans on tons of development details. The team originally toyed with ideas like vehicles you could move freely and objects controlled by tilting the Wii remote. These concepts got simplified into what became the propeller mushroom and penguin suit, which complemented the core gameplay way better and were easier for players to understand. For the final Bowser fight, they really wanted it to feel epic. They made him absolutely massive, gave him the power to smash through walls, and made it so the only way to beat him was by hitting a switch that collapses the floor beneath him. A static boss arena wouldn't work for this vision, so they turned it into a full platforming stage. They even changed the textures on Bowser's eyes and hair to amp up the intensity. Pretty cool attention to detail, right? World 9 was specifically designed for players who conquered everything else but still wanted more of a challenge. The mid-air spin got added specifically to take advantage of the Wii Remote's motion controls. The Koopalings and airships made their return because of nostalgia value, and honestly, they were great as memorable set pieces. Yoshi was planned early on, with Asuke literally imagining players fighting over who gets to ride the one Yoshi in a level. But they noticed Yoshi completely changes how levels play, so they had to be really careful about where he appeared. They only added Yoshis to levels where it could actually be designed around. The game followed up the 2006 DS title, New Super Mario Bros., and the big deal here was multiplayer. Up to 4 people could play together. The game introduced 2 fresh power-ups, the Propeller Mushroom and Penguin Suit, which transforms your character into propeller and penguin forms. This was huge for another reason too. It was the first 2D platformer Mario game on a home console, not counting Yoshi's Island, since Super Mario World on the SNES, which came out 19 years earlier. The game absolutely crushed it commercially, selling over 30 million copies worldwide. That made it the 4th best-selling Wii game overall, and the 2nd best-selling Mario game on the system. Mario Kart Wii takes the top spot. Oh, and here's a fun fact. This was one of only 2 games released outside Japan and South Korea with a different colored game box. Most Wii games had white boxes, but New Super Mario Bros. Wii came in a red box. The other exception was the Wii version of Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games. The bubble system was genius. When you lost a life in multiplayer, you'd reappear inside a bubble instead of immediately respawning. You could shake the Wii remote to float closer to players who weren't currently bubbled. The only way to pop out was if another active player touched your bubble, or threw something at it like a fireball, ice ball, shell, or frozen enemy. But here's the clever part. You could voluntarily put yourself in a bubble without losing a life by pressing a specific button. This meant if a section was too hard for you, you could just bubble up and let your more skilled friends handle it. Inside the bubble, you were completely safe and kept whatever power-up form you had. The catch? If everyone lost all their lives, or if someone died while everyone else was already bubbled, then you all had to restart from the beginning, or the midway point if you'd reached it earlier. Shaking the Wii remote activated the spin jump from Super Mario World. Yoshi riding also made a return. Beyond eating most enemies like usual, Yoshi could hold all sorts of things in his mouth, hammers, fireballs, ice balls, shells, toads, power-ups, and even other players. His flutter jump from Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, came back too. Similar to Super Mario World, eating 5 apples in a course would produce an egg containing a power-up or 1-up. Yoshi couldn't be hurt by landing on sharp enemies like spinies and piranha plants. However, you had to leave Yoshi behind at the end of any course, which is why he only appeared in certain levels. Luigi returned as a playable character from the DS game, but he was only playable in multiplayer. The Toads made their second playable appearance in the main series, the first being Toad in Super Mario Bros. 2. This time, there were 2 of them, Yellow Toad and Blue Toad, and they were multiplayer exclusive characters. Free-for-all mode was a multiplayer-only option you could pick from the main menu. It played mostly like the main game, but without midway points. At the end of each level, you'd see point tallies for each character. Though, unlike coin battle mode, there were no victory phrases or win counters. If all players reached the goal pole, the level got marked with a gold frame and displayed Team Finish for about a second. If anyone didn't make it, you'd get a silver frame and Clear instead. Super Guide was this game's answer to accessibility. If you failed a level at least 8 times in single player, a green box would appear at the start or midway point. Hit that box, and the level would restart in autopilot mode, with a computer-controlled Luigi playing through it. The Super Guide showed you one way to beat the level, but it didn't use shortcuts or reveal secrets. It was basically a demonstration run. The game was announced after Nintendo saw a slight profit drop, and they were hoping this release would boost Wii sales. Turns out, they were right. Critics and players both loved it, especially praising the multiplayer. Some critics did feel it lacked innovation compared to earlier Mario titles, but that didn't stop it from being a massive hit. The whole game came from wanting to recreate that classic single-player Mario experience, but for multiple people at once. Miyamoto had wanted to make a multiplayer Mario game since the original 1983 arcade Mario Bros. The Wii's faster CPU and better graphics and memory capabilities finally made this dream possible. Miyamoto wanted everyone to be able to enjoy the game, so he tried balancing difficulty for both casual players and hardcore fans. After the DS game came out, he felt like it hadn't been challenging enough in hindsight. He wanted this new game to provide serious challenge for players who wanted it. At the same time, the Super Guide feature was included to help unfamiliar players. They made it appear only after failing multiple times, so experienced players wouldn't have their experience interrupted. As extra motivation for advanced players, they added achievements you could earn by completing the game without ever making that green block appear. Multiple developers worked on the project, and they all had different ideas about what made a Mario game feel right. Miyamoto, acting as producer, helped the directors establish ground rules by writing specification documents explaining how the game should work. This led to discussions about what felt natural versus unnatural in a Mario game. For example, when the Ice Flower's freezing ability came up, they decided frozen enemies should logically melt when hit with fireballs and float when submerged in water. The music was composed and arranged by Shiho Fuji and Ryo Nagamatsu, with sound director Kenta Nagata providing additional work. Series veteran Koji Kondo served as sound advisor, but didn't write new compositions, though some of his classic tunes got rearranged for the game. Now, let me talk about the piracy incident involving this game. This story is kind of wild. In November 2009, a 24-year-old Australian guy named James Burt bought a copy of the game several days before its official release because a store accidentally sold it early. He then ripped the game disc and uploaded it online. Nintendo took it down and sued him shortly after, claiming he violated copyright laws and cost them potential sales. The case settled in January 2010. Burt got hit with a fine of 1.3 million Australian dollars for lost sales compensation, plus another 100,000 Australian dollars for Nintendo's legal cost. He also had to disclose where all his computers and storage devices were and give Nintendo access to his email, social media, and website accounts. Nintendo of Australia's managing director, Rose Lappin, called it a global issue since thousands of people downloaded the game worldwide before it got taken down. Burt later reflected on the incident, calling his actions very stupid and saying the consequences were something he'd have to deal with for the rest of his life. Honestly, it's a pretty harsh reminder of how seriously Nintendo takes piracy, especially with pre-release leaks. So what's the deal with New Super Mario Bros. 2? Back in 2010, Miyamoto casually mentioned that Nintendo was cooking up both a side-scrolling Mario and a 3D one for the 3DS. Fast forward to after Super Mario 3D Land drops, and Nintendo's president, Satoru Iwata, basically confirms it is an investor meeting in early 2012. He called it a totally new 2D Mario experience, which honestly feels a bit generous considering what we eventually got, but we'll get to that later. They were aiming to launch it sometime between April 2012 and March 2013, and they actually nailed it pretty quickly. Then came the official reveal during a Nintendo Direct in April 2012, where they announced it as New Super Mario Bros. 2, making it a direct follow-up to the 2006 original. Here's something cool though. This was the very first retail 3DS game that you could also download directly from the Nintendo eShop on launch day. And they didn't stop there. Starting in October, Nintendo rolled out downloadable content packs for the Coin Rush mode. Then they kept the content coming, with more packs released in late October and December. Now, here's where things get really interesting from a development perspective. The team that made the first two New Super Mario Bros. Games, they were busy with New Super Mario Bros. U for the Wii U. So Nintendo basically assembled a new squad made up of younger, less experienced developers. Don't worry though, they had Takashi Tezuka producing both games to keep things on track. This was actually intentional because Nintendo wanted to use this project as a teaching opportunity for their newer employees to learn the ins and outs of making a proper Mario game. The whole thing started in a really unconventional way too. Instead of beginning with gameplay ideas, like most things do, they kicked things off with something called the Mario Cram School. Tezuka and Toshihiko Nakago led this program where they brought together people from different Nintendo departments to study the fundamentals of designing 2D Mario levels. It's like they built a university course just for making Mario stages. Yusuke Amano, who'd worked on Star Fox 64 3D and New Super Mario Bros. Wii before, became director after going through this course design program. He actually said he was kind of surprised to suddenly find himself in charge with no designers initially assigned to help. The art director, Masanobu Ishikawa, joined up after finishing Mario Kart 7. Since most of the experienced 2D Mario developers were tied up with the Wii U game, the team filled out with designers from Nintendo's Tokyo branch and folks who'd worked on other 3DS titles. This whole Mario Cram School thing was genius because it gave new team members a solid foundation in classic 2D Mario design principles. And get this, it let Nintendo develop two new Super Mario Bros. Games at the same time for the first time ever. The team also got help from people who'd worked on Super Mario 3D Land, and their experience with the 3DS's stereoscopic 3D features really paid off. Originally, the game's backgrounds were totally flat, but the Tokyo crew came in and added visual effects like depth of field and that blurring effect you see in fancy cameras. This made everything pop more visually and actually helped you focus on what matters during gameplay. Ishikawa mentioned they took inspiration from real photography techniques and modern camera functions when adding these subtle touches. Things would even change based on how you adjusted the 3D depth slider. They also mixed things up by adding night and evening settings, instead of just the typical bright blue skies you usually see in Mario games. Plus, they threw in new enemies, like Behemoth, which is basically a giant boo designed to catch veterans off guard with unexpected behavior. The developers got experimental with some stage designs too, creating these Dash Mario levels where you get shot out of a cannon and have to react super quickly with precise timing. They were partially inspired by those minecart levels from Donkey Kong Country, and the goal was to give everyone an exciting rush, regardless of skill level. So here's where the game's whole identity comes together. That central concept of collecting 1 million coins, that came up super early through casual conversations between Tezuka, and Nakago. They kept talking about how incredibly satisfying it feels to grab coins in Mario games. They remembered this mechanic from Super Mario 3D Land, where coins would pop out of a block Mario wore on his head, and they started wondering what would happen if they cranked that idea up to 11. Eventually, they created systems that would generate coins like crazy when you're moving fast. Things escalated when Tezuka straight up suggested aiming for 1 million coins as the main goal, and everyone just ran with it. To make this work, they implemented all sorts of coin-generating features. The gold ring is probably the most memorable one because it temporarily turns regular enemies like Koopa Troopas, Goombas, and Lakitus into golden versions that spawn even more coins when you defeat them. The team actually worried this might make the game look too flashy and garish, but ultimately they decided it felt rewarding enough to keep. They also introduced Gold Mario as a new power-up to really double down on the coin collection mechanic. This was inspired by how the classic P-switch turns blocks into coins, except now Gold Mario can throw fireballs that transform both blocks and enemies into coins. What's interesting is this idea actually came from the programming team, which shows how much creative input everyone had during development. Director Amano said that having everyone focused on this coin collection theme really helped generate tons of creative ideas across all departments. The soundtrack was handled by Kenta Nagata, who's a Mario Kart veteran, though most of the music was actually recycled from New Super Mario Bros. Wii with some minor tweaks. Because coins were so central to everything, they actually considered calling it New Super Mario Bros. Gold, but they ultimately went with the 2, because the game could stand on its own as a proper sequel. Adding the co-op mode actually caused some drama during development. Tezuka wanted it in there, but his staff pushed back hard because they weren't sure how to implement it and didn't think they had enough time left. Earlier on, they'd built a prototype with both Mario and Luigi in single-player stages, and using that as a starting point, they worked to refine it into something closer to what New Super Mario Bros. Wii had. The problem was the 3DS screen was too small to expand the camera for both players, so they made it focus on one player at a time. The coin rush mode concept actually predated the game's coin theme entirely. Amano was thinking about ways to make the game more replayable, while still being something you can enjoy during short breaks. After they redesigned all the stages to be more coin-focused, the team noticed that reaching that million coin goal was incredibly difficult, no matter how much you played. That's when they decided to build this new mode, specifically around collecting massive amounts of coins quickly. Those downloadable Coin Rush course packs were announced before the game even came out. But here's the funny part. They hadn't actually created the courses yet when they made the announcement. The DLC idea came up during development of both this game and New Super Mario Bros. U, with both teams discussing it. Since New Super Mario Bros. 2 was releasing first, Nintendo decided to create the downloadable content for it first. The main focus is obviously on coins, with that primary goal of collecting 1 million total. To help you reach it, there are new items like the Gold Flower that transforms Mario into Gold Mario. Like Super Mario 3D Land, the game takes some inspiration from Super Mario Bros. 3, bringing back Raccoon Mario, the P-meter, and the Koopalings. The basic gameplay feels very similar to previous New Super Mario Bros. Games, especially the Wii version, but everything revolves around collecting coins here, with multiple ways to grab huge amounts at once through those golden items and power-ups. All the coins you collect get added to a total that's shared between your 3 save files and Coin Rush mode. When you finally hit that million coin milestone, you get a new title screen with a gold Mario statue. And if you're really dedicated and max out the counter at 9,999,999 coins, you get a gold Raccoon Mario statue instead. Nintendo added some pretty small neat touches to the gameplay experience. The music actually changes slightly depending on what's happening. When you're Raccoon Mario or Fox Luigi, a drum beat kicks in, similar to riding Yoshi in other games. Activate a gold ring, and you'll hear twinkling sounds layered in. If Mario jumps to the very top of the screen and goes out of sight, the music even gets quieter. These small details really add to the experience. The two-player co-op mode let a second player join as Luigi alongside Mario in the single-player campaign, though you can both actually choose which character you want to be. You'll need 2 3DS consoles and 2 game cards to play together though. Several mechanics from New Super Mario Bros. Wii's multiplayer return here, like the bubble and item boxes giving 2 items. As I previously mentioned, the camera only focuses on one player at a time, marked by a colored arrow above their character, red for Mario, green for Luigi. You can switch camera control by ground pounding the player who currently has it, or it'll automatically switch if the other player enters a new section first, or if the focused player loses a life or enters a bubble. Oh, and here's a fun secret. You can actually unlock Luigi for solo play by holding L, R, and A on the file select screen after beating World 6's Bowser Castle. Most critics agreed it was a solid Mario game, but they also pointed out it was pretty easy and didn't bring much new to the table. The new Super Mario Bros. Formula was honestly starting to feel a bit stale by this point. That said, the game sold incredibly well. As of September 2021, it's the 5th best-selling 3DS game ever, with about 13.39 million copies sold worldwide, sitting behind Mario Kart 7 and a few Pokemon games. So clearly, plenty of people still enjoyed collecting all those shiny coins. Right after New Super Mario Bros. Wii wrapped up, the team jumped straight into making New Super Mario Bros. U, which was released for the Wii U in 2012. They spent 3 whole years on it, which is actually quite a while in game development time. Here's something cool. The game actually started with a completely different name. Back at E3 2011, they showed off this tech demo called New Super Mario Bros. Me. Yeah, Me. Like those little avatar things on Nintendo systems. It was basically them showing off what the brand new Wii U could do. The demo looked just like the Wii version, but way sharper because of those fancy HD graphics, and you could actually play as your Mii alongside Mario and Luigi. Pretty neat, right? Fast forward a bit, and Shigeru Miyamoto himself comes out and says, "Hey, we're turning this into an actual full game." When E3 2012 rolled around, they revealed the final version with its proper name, New Super Mario Bros. U. And get this, it was going to be available right when the Wii U launched. This was the first time since Super Mario 64 that a Mario game launched alongside a brand new home console. That's kind of a big deal. The big new power-up here is the Super Acorn, which transforms Mario and friends into their flying squirrel forms. With this, you can glide around and actually cling to walls, which opens up tons of possibilities for how you tackle levels. So, there's this guy named Takashi Tezuka who produced the game, and he had some pretty specific ideas about how everything should work. His main goal was making sure the game really took advantage of what the Wii U could do, especially that gamepad controller with the screen on it. That's where boost mode came from, which I'll get into later. Here's something interesting about his design philosophy. He built all the levels thinking about single player first. Multiplayer was kind of an afterthought during creation, which honestly makes sense when you think about it. But what really stands out is that Tezuka didn't want to control your experience too much. He wanted things to feel more open, more free. That's why he was totally comfortable letting you place blocks wherever you wanted in boost mode. It's like he trusted you not to break the game, you know? Now, when it came to new features, Tezuka came up with that flying squirrel suit, specifically because he wanted you to move freely through the air. But he's not crazy. He kept some limits on it so you wouldn't just fly through every level and skip all the fun parts. The way it glides horizontally makes it different from the propeller suit in the Wii version, which went straight up. Smart thinking there. The whole world map design came from pure nostalgia for Super Mario World. You know that game had everything connected, instead of separated into different worlds, and Tezuka wanted that same feeling here. He also really wanted players from around the globe to connect with each other, which is why they added Miiverse functionality. When it comes to controls, you've got options. You can play solo using just the Wii U gamepad, or you can use Wii remotes and Wii U Pro controllers for either single player or multiplayer. The cool part is you can swap between controllers whenever you want by just pausing the game, whether you're in a level or hanging out on the world map. Just select Change Controller, and boom, you're good. The game lets up to 5 people play at once, which is honestly wild. 4 of you can play as actual characters using Wii remotes or Pro controllers, and you can jump in and out whenever by pressing a button on the gamepad and picking your character. On the map, just pause and hit number of players. Easy. Now here's where it gets really interesting. That 5th player gets to use the gamepad in boost mode. This person becomes like an assist player, placing blocks for everyone to stand on and stunning enemies to help out. You can turn on boost mode anytime you're using one of the regular controllers. And if you're playing alone with just the gamepad, it even supports off-TV play, so you don't need the TV at all. Eventually, this enemy called Nabbit shows up and literally steals stuff from the Toad houses. He runs all the way back to Acorn Plains, and now you've got a mission. When you enter a stage where Nabbit appears, you're basically racing him to the goal, trying to catch him before he escapes. If you actually manage to grab him, you get a P acorn as a reward. This replaced the whole save the Toad thing from the Wii game, and Nabbit only pops up in 1 stage per world for the first 7 worlds. The game doesn't stop at just the main story mode. You've got 3 extra bonus modes to mess around with. First up is challenge mode, where you have to complete specific objectives on certain stages, sometimes with a time limit breathing down your neck. When you finish a challenge, the game ranks you with a medal based on your performance. There are 5 different types here: time attack, coin collection, 1-up rally, special, and boost mode challenges. Then there's boost rush mode, which is all about speed. You're trying to reach the end of 2 or 3 stages as fast as possible, kind of like the coin rush mode from New Super Mario Bros. 2. The twist here is that the stages scroll automatically, so you have to keep up with them. Coin Battle makes a return from the Wii version, but with some upgrades. Now you can form teams and battle each other, or just go free-for-all if that's more your style. The Wii version only had free-for-all, so this is a nice improvement. The gamepad also lets you do coin edit, where you customize where coins appear in the special coin battle courses. That's pretty creative. This is actually the first 2D Mario game where every single level has its own unique name, and it's only the 2nd Mario game after Super Mario World to actually name the bigger areas in the game itself. Both games went with a food and drink theme for their world names. Baby Yoshis are back. These little guys hadn't been in a mainline Mario game since Super Mario World, so it's been a while. The game features 3 different colored baby Yoshis, and each one has its own special ability. They work differently from adult Yoshi in gameplay terms. Since they're babies, you can't ride them. Instead, your character has to carry them through the levels. They'll instantly eat almost any enemy right in front of them, which is super useful. Unlike in Super Mario World though, these baby Yoshis never grow up no matter how many enemies they eat. They just stay babies forever, which is kind of sad when you think about it. You can grab 2 types of baby Yoshis from the world map and bring them into any regular course. The exception is towers, airships, and castles, where they're not allowed. The production team was pretty stacked. Takashi Tezuka and Hiroyuki Kimura produced it, with Masataka Takamoto directing everything. Satomu Kaneshige and Shinichi Ikeamsu handled general coordination duties. Satoru Iwata was the executive producer, and the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto was the general producer. Masanobu Sato led the design work, while Shiro Mori directed all the programming. For the music, Shiho Fuji and Mahito Yokota composed the soundtrack, with Koji Kondo advising on sound. Also, there's this one course called Painted Swampland, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's in the haunted part of Soda Jungle, and what makes it special is that it's an outdoor ghost course with a design inspired by Vincent van Gogh's The Starry Night painting. How cool is that? Having a Mario level that's basically playable fine art is such a creative touch. When they re-released this as New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Switch, they added Toadette as a playable character. This was actually her first time appearing in the New Super Mario Bros. Series. They also created a brand new power-up called the Super Crown, and it's exclusively for Toadette. When she grabs it, she transforms into Peachette, which is honestly pretty wild. As Peachette, Toadette can float and double jump, similar to the flying squirrel form, but with even better aerial movement. She's got this extra safety net too, where if she falls into a pit or hits something that would normally kill her, she bounces away from it instead. She can only do this once before touching the ground again though, so don't get reckless. Unlike the flying squirrel form, she can't cling to walls, and she won't drop much when she turns in the air. Other characters can't even pick up the super crown. They just pass right through it like it's not there. When you're playing as Toadette, all those blocks that usually have 1-up mushrooms instead contain 3-up moons, which is a nice bonus. And in multiplayer, only Toadette can hit certain blocks to reveal them, which adds an interesting dynamic to co-op play. I'd rather not go into some of the lore implications of the Super Crown and a certain fan character called Bowsette that spawned off of it. I'm very sure most of you are well aware of that phenomenon. Some of you may indeed be very well acquainted with her, I presume. During development of both New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Mario Bros. 2, the team started brainstorming ideas for downloadable content. They both thought about expanding the secondary modes in their respective games. For the 3DS game, that meant Coin Rush, and for the Wii U game, they were thinking about Boost Rush. They decided that the 3DS version would get content first, since it was releasing first, which makes sense. But then something happened while they were working on those Coin Rush courses. The team basically scrapped the whole idea of additional Boost Rush packs and went back to the drawing board. They started experimenting with creating shorter but way more difficult courses to replace the original ones. Originally, all this downloadable content was being designed with Mario as the star. But then during a meeting, someone brought up the Year of Luigi. You remember that? Nintendo dedicated an entire year to celebrating Luigi, so they pivoted and decided to make Luigi the focus instead. Once they committed to Luigi being the main character, they went all in and decided Mario wouldn't even appear in the DLC. That's pretty bold when you think about it. This is how the expansion New Super Luigi U was born. When it came time to pick a fourth playable character to replace Mario, their first idea was using 3 Toads total, but when they tested it out, everyone got confused about which Toad was which. Then someone suggested using Nabbit as the 4th character, and they could reuse his ability to pass by enemies without taking damage. Around that same time, the team had been discussing adding something for beginner players, so making Nabbit invincible fit perfectly with that goal. Here's a fun detail. Every single level in New Super Luigi U has one hidden Luigi image somewhere. There are 83 total Luigi sightings, which is a reference to 1983, the year Luigi first appeared in a game. These images range from old-school 8-bit Super Mario Bros. Style sprites to various artworks from throughout the series. Sometimes they're out in the open, other times they're tucked away as tiny background details. It's like a whole game within the game, just looking for them. The gameplay is mostly the same as the base game, but with one major change. All playable characters now have Luigi's signature higher jump and that slippery lower traction from Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. Remember how hard that game was? Yeah, they brought that Luigi physics back. The whole DLC was designed to be way more challenging. Every stage starts you off with only 100 seconds on the clock, which sounds terrifying. To compensate though, they made the courses shorter than normal, while absolutely packing them with enemies and obstacles. It's like concentrated Mario difficulty. While all the levels got completely redesigned, the world map itself stayed exactly the same. Everything else like items, power-ups, star coins, toad houses, enemy courses, and bosses all work just like in the base game. Multiplayer is still here from the main game, but since Mario got kicked out, Nabbit takes his spot as the 4th playable character. When you play as Nabbit, enemies can't hurt you at all, which sounds great until you realize you also can't use most power-ups, can't ride Yoshis, and can't hold items. Any power-ups Nabbit collects get converted to 1-ups at the end of each stage. You can only earn 8 1-ups per course this way though, so there's a cap. The world map looks identical to New Super Mario Bros. U, but the levels themselves got a complete overhaul. As I mentioned, the playable characters and their abilities are different now. That 100-second timer is standard for every level, but you do get a time bonus after reaching the boss door in towers and castles. It's 100 seconds normally, 150 in all aboard, and 250 in the final battle. Items in red toad houses might be different too. Where you'd normally find a super mushroom, you might get a 1-up mushroom instead. Enemy courses only have mini mushrooms and propeller mushrooms instead of just superstars. Some enemies like Grolls and Sumo Bros show up earlier than they did in the original game, while others like Rocky Wrenches and Amps are completely gone. There are no checkpoint flags in any of these levels, which honestly makes everything more intense. A lot of elements got colored green to emphasize the whole Luigi theme, and remember those hidden Luigis? They're in every level. Flying Squirrel Ovation even has 2 of them, just to keep you on your toes. So hey, let me tell you about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and why everyone's been losing their minds over it. After years of pretty samey new Super Mario games, Nintendo really went back to the drawing board with this one, and honestly, it totally paid off. Takashi Tezuka came back as producer for this game, which is cool since he's been a Mario legend forever. Interestingly enough, Tezuka actually started cooking up ideas for Wonder while working on Super Mario Maker 2. He already knew from the get-go that this game needed to be radically different from the Maker games, especially since a lot of people were saying those games made another 2D Mario unnecessary. Mori also pushed for building the game on a completely new engine from day one. The director role went to Shiro Mori, the guy who worked on New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. They kicked off development back in 2019, right after Deluxe wrapped up. Here's the best part though. Nintendo didn't rush them at all. No hard deadlines for getting a prototype ready, which basically gave the team all this breathing room to just mess around with ideas and see what stuck. When they first started planning Wonder, Mori wanted to capture that feeling of discovery and hidden surprises you got from the very first Super Mario Bros., but make it work for people playing today. Initially, they were thinking about the classic approach of warping Mario to different spots in a level using pipes or vines. You know, the usual stuff. But then Tezuka had this light bulb moment and suggested something way cooler. Instead of moving Mario somewhere else, why not transform the level itself right where you're standing? That's how the Wonder Flower was born. This item that completely flips the current stage on its head in wild ways. To make sure every single level had its own unique wonder effect, they asked literally everyone on the team to pitch ideas. We're talking about 2,000 different concepts written down. From that massive pile, they picked out the best ones, built prototypes, and those made it into the final game. Pretty wild process when you think about it. And to really sell the transformation, they made the audio way more unconventional too. You'll notice way more environmental sounds and effects. Plus, the background music uses digital synthesizers instead of the analog ones from New Super Mario Bros. The team also wanted to nail the difficulty balance, so both younger players and hardcore fans could have a good time. They designed the game with this flexible difficulty system, where you've got badges that can either make things easier or crank up the challenge, depending on what you need. There's an online mode, where you can get help from other players. Plus, certain characters like Yoshi and Nabbit have special perks, such as not taking damage from enemies. Oh, and the world map isn't linear either. So if you hit a level that's kicking your butt, you can just skip it and come back later. Originally, they planned to have live sports commentary reacting to everything you did in the game. Sounds kind of bizarre, right? Well, late in development, they scrapped that whole idea because it was getting too complicated to pull off. And according to one of the designers, something just felt off about it. Instead, we got the talking flowers. Those chatty plants scattered throughout levels that crack jokes and comment on what you're doing. Way more charming if you ask me. Here's something interesting. Shigeru Miyamoto, basically the godfather of Mario, barely worked on Wonder at all. But whenever he'd drop by to check on how things were going, he'd give feedback to the team. Mori mentioned that Miyamoto absolutely hated the first version of Elephant Mario's design and animations, and that criticism pushed them to completely redo it. Gotta respect when the legend speaks up like that. Nintendo finally showed off Wonder during a direct presentation on June 21st, 2023, and the game hit shelves on October 20th that same year for the Switch. This was actually the first traditional 2D side-scrolling Mario game we'd gotten since New Super Mario Bros. U way back in 2012. So people were definitely ready for something new. Wonder also marks a pretty big changing of the guard. It's the first game featuring Kevin Afghani as the voice of Mario and Luigi. This came after Nintendo announced in August 2023 that Charles Martinet, who'd voiced the brothers since 1991, was stepping back from those roles. This is also the first Super Mario game where you'll hear Giselle Fernandez voicing Daisy instead of Deanna Mustard, who'd done the character from 2003 to 2022. Plus, Don M. Bennett took over as Nabbit from Natsuko Yokoyama. Fun coincidence. Sonic Superstars, another 2D platformer from Sega, came out just 3 days before Wonder. Both Tezuka and the Sonic producer, Takashi Iizuka, said the timing was totally unplanned. Despite how long both franchises had gone without a 2D entry, it was the first time Mario and Sonic 2D games launched this close together since the whole Nintendo vs. Sega console wars back in the 90s. Looking ahead, Nintendo announced an expanded version called Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, plus meet up in Bella Bell Park during a September 2025 Direct. It's coming to the Switch 2 sometime in mid-2026, and will add a whole new Bella Bell Park world focused on competitive and cooperative multiplayer. They also confirmed the Koopalings are showing up, though we don't know exactly how yet. The Super Mario Bros. Movie actually inspired the game's more expressive animations. Tezuka figured new players would expect Mario to move and react like he does in the movie, so they ramped up the details significantly. He did clarify later that the dev team didn't know specific details about the movie, just that it would shape player expectations. With all this extra animation detail, the number of frames and joints on the character models more than doubled compared to New Super Mario Bros. U. The characters looked more like 2D illustrations drawn by Shigehise Nakaue. This visual style actually carried over into Mario Kart World later on. Unlike the New Super Mario series, Wonder gives you an actual distinct story and setting that isn't the Mushroom Kingdom for once. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Yellow Toad, Blue Toad, and Toadette get invited to the neighboring Flower Kingdom, which is ruled by Prince Florian. He's showing off this Wonder Flower to everyone when, surprise, Bowser crashes the party with Bowser Jr. and Kamek. Bowser grabs the Wonder Flower and merges himself with his Koopa Clown car and Florian's castle, transforming into this massive Castle Bowser thing. He then starts wrecking the entire kingdom and trapping all the locals, these creatures called Poplins, in their homes. Obviously, Mario and crew aren't having it, so they team up with Florian to stop Bowser's latest scheme. 4 Yoshis and Nabbit tag along for the ride too. Your journey takes you through 6 main worlds: Pipe Rock Plateau, Fluff Puff Peaks, Shining Falls, Sun-Baked Desert, Fungi Mines, and Deep Magma Bog. You're collecting royal seeds from each one to clear away the cloud piranhas protecting Castle Bowser. Along the way, you'll battle a powered-up Bowser Jr. in 4 corrupt palaces and take down 3 flying battleships that Kamek summons. Everything connects through the central Petal Isles area. Eventually, you storm Castle Bowser itself and take down Bowser before he can use wonder powers to terrorize the entire universe, saving the Flower Kingdom in the process. Everyone celebrates with Florian and the Poplins, and there's this hilarious post-credits scene where Kamek's trying to carry both Bowser and Bowser Jr. in the Koopa Clown car, but they're too heavy, so they just crash into some hills near the castle. The game builds on the new Super Mario Bros. Formula, but with completely refreshed models, expressions, and animations. You can play as Mario and Luigi, obviously, but also Peach, Daisy, Yellow Toad, Blue Toad, Toadette, 4 different colored Yoshis, and Nabbit. Everyone shares the core moveset from New Super Mario Bros., so you can still wall jump, ground pound, and spin jump. Nabbit keeps his signature ability, where enemies just pass right through him without causing damage. The Yoshis don't take damage either, though they'll bump into enemies when they collide. They still have their flutter jump, can be ridden by other characters, and use their tongues to eat enemies and items. All these characters can also use power-ups now, including new ones like the elephant fruit, and they can equip badges that give them extra abilities like the parachute cap, or special moves. The Flower Kingdom serves as your playground, with levels mixing familiar themes from past games like grasslands, deserts, and beaches, alongside fresh ideas like autumnal forests and savannas. The hub is one connected world map, similar to New Super Mario Bros. U, where each level shows up as a 3D icon, like in Super Mario 3D World. Every level has its own unique name, and gets assigned a difficulty rating from 1 to 5 stars, which is something you only really saw before in Super Mario Advance 4's level cards and Super Mario Maker 2's story mode. The star of the show is definitely the Wonder Flower, this power-up that warps reality around you in completely bonkers ways. Maybe warp pipes suddenly come alive and start moving around like creatures, or piranha plants break into song. These Wonder Flowers only exist in the Flower Kingdom, along with Wonder Seeds and Flower Coins, which are the region's main collectibles. Another cool addition is the Talking Flowers, these non-playable characters hanging out in levels who react to what's happening and what you're doing. This is actually the first 2D side-scrolling Mario game since Super Mario Bros. 2 to ditch both the score system and time limits entirely. You can take as long as you want exploring levels, which is super refreshing. When you bounce off enemies or objects in succession, you'll see ratings pop up starting with good, then climbing through great, super, fantastic, excellent, incredible, and finally, wonderful. Once you hit wonderful, every additional bounce in your chain gives you a 1-up. Each world mixes regular levels with smaller bonus stages that come in different flavors. Break time levels are quick challenges, with specific objectives to snag a Wonder Seed. Badge challenge and expert badge challenge levels require you to use a particular badge's abilities to reach the goal, and you actually unlock that badge by beating the level. You start these in your small form temporarily, and failing doesn't cost you any lives. They're short, but still hide 3 10 flower coins. Though, unlike regular levels, you lose these coins if you fail, and have to collect them again. Wiggler race levels are exactly what they sound like. You're facing a roller skating Wiggler to the finish line. KO Arena levels throw waves of enemies at you that you need to defeat in sequence, kind of like the Mystery House levels from Super Mario 3D World. These also have 3 10 flower coins based on your clear time. Search Party levels task you with finding 5 hidden Wonder tokens to earn a Wonder Seed. If you count the different colored Toads and Yoshis as separate characters, Wonder has 12 playable characters, which is the most any mainline Mario game has ever had. Daisy and the Yoshis are playable in a home console Mario game for the first time here, after previously being playable in Super Mario Run. Most characters control identically, aside from revealing different hidden character blocks. The Yoshis and Nabbit don't take damage from most hazards and enemies, but they can't use power-ups to transform. Nabbit doesn't even flinch when hit, while the Yoshis keep their flutter jump, tongue attacks, and can be ridden by others. One neat detail: the random character option won't pick Yoshis or Nabbit for you. Super Mario Bros. Wonder absolutely blew people away with how unique and original it felt, both visually and in terms of gameplay. After so many new Super Mario games that all kind of blended together, fans were honestly getting pretty tired of that formula. Wonder completely revitalized the 2D Mario franchise in a way nobody really expected. It ended up being considered one of 2023's best games, and even scored a Game of the Year nomination at the Game Awards. While the new Super Mario games were solid and fun, Wonder proved that 2D Mario could still be relevant, and achieve near masterpiece status, even decades after the 90s golden age. It's basically proof that when Nintendo takes their time and really commits to trying something different, magic can happen. So yeah, that's basically the full story of 2D Mario. from those humble 8-bit beginnings on the NES, all the way to Wonder's reality-bending flower power. It's honestly pretty incredible how this series kept reinventing itself over nearly 4 decades. You had the original trilogy, establishing the foundation, the Yoshi's Island games going artsy and experimental, the new Super Mario series keeping things alive during the 3D era, even if they got a bit samey, and then Wonder coming in at the perfect moment to remind everyone why we fell in love with 2D platformers in the first place. Through all the ups and downs, the safe sequels and the bold reinventions, 2D Mario never really died like so many other classic franchises. It just kept adapting, kept surprising us when we least expected it, and proved that sometimes the simplest concept of a plumber jumping on enemies and grabbing power-ups can still feel fresh and exciting when the right creative minds get their hands on it. Here's hoping Nintendo keeps that experimental wonder energy going forward, because clearly, they've still got plenty of tricks up their sleeves. Of course, in this video, we've covered only the 2D adventures of the Italian plumber, but his 3D ones are just as iconic. Click the video that's appearing on screen right now before it disappears to keep your sleep going now with facts about the 3D Mario games, including titles like Galaxy and Odyssey, with even deeper lore and trivia that you love.